It is 2 o'clock. I'm Zach Merchant joining you in the 11Alive Plus Streaming Center right now. We are coming on the air following a frightening incident at a Cobb County high school. We want to start with this. It ended up being what the district is calling a school threat hoax. But that did not diminish the fear that some students certainly felt today when what is described as a code red lockdown was initiated. Again, all students and staff are safe. This has been determined to be a hoax. But let's get you up to speed on how this all played out at Sprayberry High School in Cobb County. You're looking at helicopter pictures of the high school from earlier today. The school district has said that there was a brief code red lockdown and a police response described as being a response out of an abundance of caution. A communication sent to parents and shared with 11Alive said the code red was initiated following a 911 call reporting a student who may have had a weapon in a backpack. Again, that was determined to be a hoax, but at the time, school officials initiated lockdown procedures, and that is what triggered the law enforcement response that students and staff and others on campus saw. Here is the full statement from Cobb County Schools that we have right now. This is a quote. Earlier today, a report was made of a weapon at Sprayberry High School. Law enforcement responded immediately, and the school was placed on a brief code red lockdown while police investigated. All students and staff are safe. No weapon was found, and police are investigating the report as a hoax 911 call. We are grateful for the swift response and continued support of our law enforcement partners. Yes, the district says once again, the code red has been lifted. Cobb County Police also sharing this statement just in the last hour or so. They say, quote, "We are aware of an alleged report that a firearm was brought onto the campus of Sprayberry High School. Out of an abundance of caution, officers are currently on site conducting safety checks. At this time, officers have not located any evidence to support the claim." They say they're going to continue to work closely with school administrators to ensure the safety and well-being of students and staff. Again, if you're joining us right now, you're looking at helicopter images, or you were just a moment ago, over Sprayberry High School in Cobb County, where what is described to be a brief lockdown was initiated earlier today. That was triggered by what is now described as a school threat call hoax. All students and staff are safe. But it follows the shooting outside of Palmetto Elementary School earlier this week in the southern portion of Fulton County. That incident did lead to the death of one woman outside of the elementary school. All students and staff in that case were also unhurt. We continue to follow these incidents, and we hope we don't have to follow any more of them. We're going to stay on top of it. We're going to turn now to our meteorologist, Melissa Nord, who joins us now with a look at the forecast. And Melissa, I'm looking at some of these images you have teed up for us, and some sunny days here.
Some sunshine.
Look
it's
at
a nice
that.
change. We had a lot of rain yesterday. Not a lot of rain. It was just a dreary kind of light rain day. But it's nice to see sun back, and on a Thursday and Friday leading into a weekend.
We like that.
It's not going to last all weekend.
We don't like that.
We got really lucky last weekend with a totally dry weekend. It was beautiful outside. This weekend, it's a 50-50 weekend. Half of it is very nice. Half of it, we're going to have some rain around. So live look right now over the city of Atlanta. We have spiked back up to 63 degrees already this afternoon. So we are already above average by a handful of degrees. There's 50s in the North Georgia mountains. It feels like spring, though. It's like crisp spring. It's not humid spring. It's crisp spring before the pollination. So it's a pretty nice start to the weekend on this Thursday. And it's a big weekend because it's Valentine's Day weekend. So who doesn't like to celebrate? Some people don't. Some people do. Some people like their Galentine's Day weekend. If you're going to be out celebrating, it's good for Friday and Saturday. If you're celebrating post-holiday because you don't want to be next to a bunch of couples that are trying to act all mushy. I used to be like that. Sunday's going to be a wet day. It's going to be a little bit rainy outside. So decent on Friday. More clouds are with us Saturday. But let me show you the weather system that's going to bring that rain on Sunday. You can see we are dry with high pressure tomorrow. As we advance it out to Saturday, the moisture streaming in off the Gulf in advance of that system. So we'll see the clouds increasing on Saturday, but the rain's not here quite yet. That rain will start to move in overnight. Some rain around Sunday morning. I think the lion's share of it, though, comes in midday through early in the afternoon. So with this particular system, it's pulling in a lot of deep moisture with it, so we'll watch for some heavy rainfall. But I think our temperatures are just cool enough to where this is a rain system, maybe a rumble of thunder, but I don't see the cards for severe weather for us. However, I think in southern Georgia, southern Alabama, we have, more humid air down there. They have some stronger winds aloft, so there could be an isolated stronger storm to our south and west, but not here, I think, in Atlanta. But today's Thursday. We're talking about something for Sunday, so things can change before now and then. You can see the clouds building in tonight. Tomorrow, like today, we'll break into sunshine for the afternoon. It's maybe a degree or two cooler than today, but it's a nice Friday. If you're doing Friday night out, we're going to be in the 50s after sunset. And then we're dry again on Saturday, but the clouds just keep thickening up throughout the day. So it's filtered sunshine in the morning, then cloudy by the afternoon. You can see those few spotty rain showers in the evening. Most of this comes in overnight and then into Sunday. Here's 8 o'clock as far as our forecast track will go, and you see that line of heavy rain right across the Alabama and Georgia state line. That even could have a few isolated thunderstorms in it. They will weaken the further east that they get because we have a nice little wedge set up in advance of that coming in, which means it keeps us a little cooler and protected from the storm risk. Nice, 3/4 of an inch to an inch on average, and we need that. Drought monitor came out today, Zach. You can see in the red color over Athens, that is a level D3 extreme drought, and we now have that D2 in orange severe drought back in Atlanta as well. So although we've had these weekend systems recently, they haven't brought a lot of rain or rain amounts or equivalency of rain, so we do need some rain. We'll take the rain that we can get. It's not going to wipe the drought out, but it hopefully puts us in a better position for the drought monitor next week.
We are due. Yeah, you look at that image, a lot of orange and a lot of red, which is not the kind of color you want to see on the drought monitor.
No.
Melissa, one question for you before
Sure.
you go. I know that you've got a little bit of beef with the groundhogs, and you're not the only meteorologist who's brought that up just this week, in fact. And our friends, the groundhogs, they predicted 6 more weeks of winter.
Yes.
I know that the forecast only goes out so far.
Mm-hmm.
We're pushing on the middle of February.
Mm-hmm.
Are we at a point now where we can say, the bulk of the winter maybe is behind us at this point and the groundhogs were wrong, or is it still kind of TBD?
Here's the thing, Zach. Our sun angle gets higher in the sky when we get past mid-February. I'm talking nerd science here, but
this is the place to do it. We love it when you guys
makes
do
it
this.
harder for us to see winter weather the later into February we get. If we're going to see winter weather, it's often in January. February, it's not unheard of. We can absolutely see winter storms. I just don't think the pattern we're in has a lot of those big cold air intrusions with the moisture coming in for the next 2 weeks. So, if I had to place my bets on having more winter weather or not, I would say probably not. I think with more 60s ahead this next week, we're more likely to see pollen numbers creeping up.
That's the price we pay
Yeah.
for a little sunshine, and it feels good when you walk outside now at 6 o'clock and there is the sun that's still out and it's warm.
Yes.
And it's nice.
And we're less than a month away from springing forward as well.
We have that to look forward to as well. Melissa, I could talk to you about this all day because who doesn't like sunny weather? But we're going to turn now. Melissa, thank you as always. We'll check in a little bit later. We're going to turn now to our Doug Richards, who I do not believe is outside in the sunshine right now, but I believe he is at the state capitol. And Doug, you are tracking today a bill focused on power rates in Georgia.
That's right, Zach. I'd almost rather talk about the weather, but given the fact that there are actually, I counted at least eight bills that are under consideration here at the Capitol relating to data centers. And the effort behind them is to make sure that consumers who pay electric bills don't get nicked too badly, if at all, for the costs of data centers. And so there are probably really three competing approaches, two of which are being taken seriously and one of which is being completely disregarded, at least at this point. The one that's disregarded is the one, of course, put out by the Democrats, who want to have a moratorium on data centers. That's not getting a lot of serious consideration at the Capitol these days, but bills that are designed to make sure that utility customers don't get sticker shock when they open bills based on rate increases that could come because of the construction of data centers and the electricity that those centers can consume in massive quantities. Those kind of that kind of demand for electricity could be pushed forward toward customers of electricity, and the other bill, all the bills try to avoid that. The two competing approaches do it incrementally. One bill is going to get a hearing this afternoon. It's a bill that some consumer advocates like a lot because they think that it will hold the line better on potential rate hikes than another bill that seems to have that's also getting traction in the House. This is a Senate hearing this afternoon on the bill that the advocates like, and then there's a House bill that has passed a few days ago that the advocates don't hate, but they aren't as warm toward that as we might expect, Zach. And I'm sure that doesn't clarify anything.
Doug, it clarified a lot. One question for you, because you know better than most.
It's very generous
there are lots
of you.
of bills. There are lots of bills that get dropped in the state legislature. Some of them have more attention, more oomph behind them than others. The issue of rate increases and power prices was a major one in the Public Service Commission race back in the fall of 2025, which became sort of a flashpoint race in its own right as we were heading into this midterm year of 2026. How much focus of the legislators under the Gold Dome is on this issue of power rates and data centers?
Well, one of the things that they're mindful of is the fact that the Public Service Commission itself, which sets rates, has implemented a policy with respect to data centers that basically takes into consideration forecasts that they have created. I guess the PSC has sort of amalgamated plans that they've heard about, have devised what they think will be rate usage under those plans, and have sort of taken steps to make sure that those increases in power consumption can be adopted and handled by the electrical utilities without harming rate structures too much. And then and so there's that approach, which basically a state law could codify what the PSC has done. And then another approach would be more restrictive and would lean less on what the Public Service Commission has done and set sort of a more independent goal as to what the rate of consumption based on the consumption of data centers would be acceptable in Georgia looking into the future. They ought to ask AI what they ought to do, right?
I am sure, Doug, somebody has already. We know that this hearing kicks off at 3 o'clock. We may be checking in and listening in to some of that hearing coming up in the next 45 minutes or so. Our Doug Richards at the Capitol. We appreciate it. Thank you, sir. And we are going to turn now to a quick break. Lots more news coming up in just about 2 minutes. Welcome back in. There is a bill making its way through the legislature right now. It was a Georgia Senate committee recently unanimously advanced a bill that would create a pathway for foreign-trained doctors to practice medicine here in Georgia. To help break down what that means for our state, for people who get medical treatment in our state, and the bill's path forward from here, we're joined by Rebecca Grapevine, the Atlanta-based reporter at healthbeat.org. Rebecca, you've been following this bill closely. Where's it going next, and how did it get to this point?
Yes, great question. Advocates have been pushing for this bill for a while, for about 3 or 4 years, and last year it kind of stalled out. So this year, a Republican senator, Dr. Ben Watson, who's a doctor from Savannah, took up the bill and it got unanimous approval in a Senate committee, as you said, and now it's waiting on a floor vote in the Senate. So we'll see if the Senate's able to get to that by the March 6th deadline that they'll need to pass it on to the next phase.
And you know well, as I think our audience does too, because we follow a lot of these bills through the legislature, it is a process to get any bill across the finish line and turned into law. But as you mentioned, there have been efforts to get this kind of legislation done for several years. This year, you've pointed out, it seems to be getting more traction. Georgia has a shortage of physicians. Is that the driving force behind the focus this year on this kind of legislation?
Yes, it's breaking news to no one who's ever tried to get a doctor's appointment in Georgia that we do have a shortage of physicians here, and that's especially pronounced in our more rural parts of the state. And so advocates say, hey, on the one hand, we have a shortage, and on the other hand, we have some doctors here in the United States who were trained abroad, but could potentially help fill in those gaps, especially in underserved areas. So could we put those two pieces together and help solve this problem or make a dent in the shortage problem? But that doesn't mean just anybody gets to practice in Georgia. There's a long list of requirements I can walk you through.
Yeah, you almost read my mind there because I did want to ask you about that. And as I look at my notes here, there are thousands of physicians that Georgia would like to have here that we don't. The number I'm looking at is something like a shortage of 8,000 physicians. But if this bill passes and it becomes easier for foreign-trained doctors to come and practice medicine here, Rebecca, you tee me up, and I want to tee you up in return. What kind of requirements would those foreign-trained doctors have to meet in order to actually practice medicine here in Georgia?
Yes, this is a lengthy process. First of all, you would need to be here lawfully. So, however you got here, you would need to be under a lawful status. And you would have need to already practice medicine in 5 or even some cases 10 years in, another country, as well as, obviously graduated from medical school there. And then I've got a list here. It's a long list. You would have to take an exam, the typical 3-part exam that U.S. doctors take, the USMLE, or you could be board certified, but typically you'd have to pass this 3-part exam that doctors take. You'd have to prove English proficiency, and you'd have to have an offer of employment to practice in a rural medical practice, in a medical school, or in a hospital in Georgia. And if you had that and you got this provisional license, you could practice for 4 years and then go back to the board and say, I've done all of those things. Now can I have a full license here in Georgia? And then you would be able to get a full license here in Georgia, but you would still have to practice in an underserved area, either a rural area or some of our charitable clinics in Georgia. So this is not for the faint of heart, but doctors are passionate about helping people, and some foreign doctors do want to practice here.
And Rebecca, as you have noted, this bill made its way out of a Senate committee unanimously, but under the Gold Dome, you know well, there is often opposition to some level or another to many of the proposals that are advanced in our state legislature. Do you have a sense of whether there is any opposition right now to this proposal? And if so, on what grounds do opponents take issue with this proposal?
Yes, actually, surprisingly, a similar measure came up last year and got unanimous approval in the House. So there is, seems to be bipartisan support for this. And I heard people on both sides of the aisle at the committee hearing, advocates as well as legislators, speak in favor of this. So oftentimes at the state legislature, it's not that people don't like a bill or don't support it, but sometimes legislators just run out of time amid competing priorities. So one question would be, are they going to make this a priority this year after what's already been a several years push to get this moving? So that would probably be the biggest question, and I will be tracking that.
And you know well, if you've ever been at the Capitol on the last day of session on Sine Die, it's a little bit like everybody is trying to get it's a busy day, I'll say that. The legislators are working rapidly to try to get a lot of bills over the finish line. And a lot of our viewers and folks who are watching, you've seen us cover that as well, just as Rebecca has. One last question for you. We've talked a lot about the data, we've talked about the bill and its path through the legislature. The rural impact of getting more doctors into Georgia, can you just put that into the human context? How difficult is it for some people in our most rural counties to get access to reliable medical care right now?
It can be really tough. You can be facing. I talked to someone recently who needed to seek, professional mental health, and they drove 4 hours to see a doctor. And you might say, well, we have telemedicine now, something most of us here in Atlanta take for granted. But I also spoke to someone from the southwest corner of the state recently who said, my internet doesn't work very well. I usually, he doesn't really have internet. He has to use his phone signal to get online. So it's not a given all over the state that people would have access. So again, advocates say we've got this hole that needs filling, and can these doctors come help us fill it in since they're already here? I mean, I've heard stories of doctors that are here that are doing things like delivering Uber Eats, or, maybe change their mind and go into another profession that doesn't take so many years, like of going back to medical school in the United States. So advocates say these people could help us fill that gap.
A potential aid to the many folks who live in all of Georgia's 159 counties. If you live in Metro Atlanta, you got to remember, we are a big state geographically and a big state spread out between very rural areas and very urban areas and everything in between. Rebecca Grapevine with healthbeat.org. I know you're going to stay on top of this, and we always appreciate it when you spend some time sharing your reporting with us. So thank you very much, as always.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
We're going to turn now. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in just over 120 seconds. The federal immigration effort, the surge in Minnesota, it was focused in Minneapolis, known as Operation Metro Surge, today is ending. That is according to Trump administration border czar Tom Homan, who made the announcement today. The Operation Metro Surge became a flashpoint, not just in the city, not just in the state, but in all across the country, and the political conversation all across the country as well. Protesters often clashed with federal immigration agents. There were 2 fatal encounters between federal immigration agents and protesters. Renee Good and Alex Preddy were both fatally shot by federal immigration agents in Minneapolis in the span of just a few weeks. The Trump administration and immigration enforcement officials have maintained support of the mission in Minneapolis, but changes were made also after the killing of Alex Preddy. And now Tom Homan today announcing that Operation Metro Surge is coming to an end. Here's what Homan had to say.
I'm very pleased to report that this surge operation and our work here with state and local officials to improve coordination and achieve mutual goals, as well as our efforts to address issues of concern here on the ground, have yielded the successful results we have came here for. The Twin Cities and Minnesota in general are and will continue to be much safer for the communities here because of what we have accomplished under President Trump's leadership. I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude. A significant drawdown has already been underway this week and will continue through the next week. As a result of our efforts here, Minnesota is now less of a sanctuary state for criminals. And we are proud of the public safety threats we have removed from the criminal aliens out of the state. As I said in my first press conference a couple weeks ago, President Trump didn't send me here because the operations were being run and conducted perfectly. I came here to identify issues and implement solutions to improve our mission execution. A small footprint of personnel will remain for a period of time to close out and transition full command and control back to the field office, as well as to ensure agitator activity continues to decline and that state and local law enforcement continue to respond to ensure officer and community safety.
That again is Tom Homan, the border czar in the Trump administration, delivering remarks today, informing the public that Operation Metro Surge, the federal immigration enforcement effort in Minnesota and specifically in Minneapolis, is coming to an end. Earlier today, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat who was the Democratic vice presidential nominee in the 2024 presidential race, delivered these remarks after Homan's announcement.
And we're going to be proposing a reinstitution of our small business emergency fund. It's what we used very successfully during COVID in the recovery and the economic recovery that we saw in Minnesota that outpaced most of the rest of the country. We're going to be proposing a first-time $10 million one-time targeted loans, forgivable loans that we know, and I want to be very clear, is a very small piece of this, but what I am going to challenge as we get ready to start here in a few days, the legislative session, this legislative session needs to be about recovery of the damage that's been done to us. The federal government needs to pay for what they broke here. There are going to be accountability on the things that happened, but one of the things is the incredible and immense costs that were borne by the people of this state. The federal government needs to be responsible. You don't get to break things and then just leave without doing something about it.
That again is Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat, delivering remarks following the announcement that Operation Metro Surge, the federal immigration enforcement effort in Minnesota and in the city of Minneapolis, is being wound down. The conversation, the national conversation over immigration enforcement, how it should be conducted, has become a flashpoint, including at the United States Capitol, where the debate has been underway over how to fund and whether to fund the Department of Homeland Security, which is the umbrella organization that oversees ICE and other federal immigration enforcement agencies. Just moments ago, you're looking at what I believe is a live picture right now of the floor in the U.S. Capitol. Moments ago, Senate Democrats voted Thursday to block a motion, so voted today to block a motion to advance a House-passed bill to fund the Department of Homeland Security that is putting now Washington on the brink of a partial government shutdown that would affect more than 260,000 federal employees. The motion, which required 60 votes, failed to advance by a vote of 52 to 47. So you might be asking, how did we get to this point if the government just passed a funding bill about a week and a half ago? The government passed that bill, the legislature passed that bill, and the president signed it into law that funded the entirety of the government, but it only funded DHS for 2 weeks. It was designed to give legislators a narrow 2-week window to open up debate on what to do, how to fund, where to fund, whether to fund the Department of Homeland Security. It now appears, and again, this is all coming in just moments ago, that Senate Democrats have voted today to block a motion that would advance a House-passed bill to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Lawmakers still have, and Reams, our producer, correct me if I'm wrong, but lawmakers still have until, I believe, tomorrow night at midnight. We'll get you a firm number on that shortly. Lawmakers still have a narrow window to find some compromise on how to address the DHS funding question. But right now, again, just moments ago, this vote by Senate Democrats to block the advancement of a motion on a House-passed bill to fund the DHS puts the government on trajectory to potentially a short-term funding lapse of the Department of Homeland Security. And our producer Reams just giving me some updated information here. Lawmakers now have until Saturday at midnight. So that's what we're watching right now. We're going to see what lawmakers do over the next 36 hours or so as this latest development and ongoing conversation about immigration enforcement in our nation continues. I believe we're going to turn now to our Danielle Nottingham, who is just joining us now. We're going to continue to follow what's going on at the U.S. Capitol, but we're going to turn now to a story that is much more local. Danielle Nottingham joining us right now. Danielle, you had a conversation with a very well-known Atlanta-based pastor after a disruption in his church.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's almost slightly related to some of the immigration protests that we've been seeing in Minneapolis. But what happened was I spoke to Dr. Jamal Bryant from New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Stonecrest, and they had an incident on February 1st where a man and his wife, and Pastor Bryant says this man is a preacher from Alabama, walked into the church as church members were arriving for Sunday service and went on this rant, threatening to destroy the church, calling the church members materialistic, race baiters, saying that they were going to burn in saying a lot of different things in this video. He never made it inside the sanctuary, but the rant happened for several minutes outside the sanctuary doors. And so what Pastor Brian is saying right now is that this is very similar to what happened to journalist Don Lemon in Minneapolis when Attorney General Pam Bondi went after him, and he's now facing federal civil rights charges for covering a protest that disrupted a church service inside a Minneapolis church. So now Pastor Brian is saying this man from Alabama, he wants him formally identified, and he wants Pam Bondi to go after him with the same energy that he had, that she had rather, for Don Lemon. And of course, he's bringing out about the difference that the congregation in Minneapolis, it was a white church, and he is the pastor of a black congregation here. So he was saying if that's how you feel, and if it's against somebody's civil rights to have a church service, interrupted, that this person should be arrested too.
And I know that you spoke directly with Pastor Bryant. I think we have some of that conversation ready. Is this a good time to listen in? I think
Yeah,
folks
let's
would
go.
love to hear from the pastor directly.
I want to challenge that Pam Bondi, who issued loudly and nationally that worship is sacred space and should not be interrupted by protesters, with that same zeal and commitment that she had around the church in Minneapolis that was majority Caucasian. That same passion should stand for protecting black churches as well.
And he's saying that this is a concern for him. Now, as for the man who disrupted church service, or the church here in Stonecrest, DeKalb County Police issued a trespass order for them, so he can't go back on the property, but he wasn't formally arrested. And that's what he's looking for. But he's saying that he has a really big concern about black churches across the country, especially his, that someone could just walk in. And if we have a chance to show some of the video, as you can see, if you ever go to that church, they have a lot of church greeters. And so initially the man walks in and he's just saying hello to everyone, and it seems like there's nothing wrong. And the church greeters are welcoming him into the church, and then all of a sudden it takes a turn.
And as we get ready to potentially cue that up, Danielle, I want to ask you a question. Have you heard back from the Department of Justice? Has Pastor Bryant heard back from the Department of Justice?
He says he has not heard from Pam Bondi whatsoever, and he's reached out because he thought he could at least have a conversation about it, or someone would contact him about his concerns. But as of today, I spoke to his representative today, and they say they have heard nothing from the Attorney General.
And Pastor Bryant, for folks, many people here in Atlanta, of course, will know who he is. Many folks and people who watch us from all around the country, some may know of his name, but not know exactly his background. He is a prominent and outspoken pastor who addresses political issues, religious issues. He's outspoken on a number of issues.
Absolutely. One issue that he's really taken control of is this boycott of Target because of them dropping their DEI initiatives. So he's very much into civil rights. He's very much into the community. And right now he feels like the Attorney General, he says, is practicing a little bit of hypocrisy here by going after Don Lemon and not going after this man who walked into his church. And literally, if you listen to the whole video, the video's gone viral. You can hear him threatening the church.
I think we have that right now. Let's listen.
The Lord Jesus Christ is going to destroy this church. He's going to destroy this church. And if you're in it when he does, he'll destroy you with it.
And you can imagine how scary that might be if you're just, walking in to go to church service on Sunday and you see someone ranting, and you can kind of see throughout the video, the church members, some of them are kind of confused. It's almost like they're not sure what's really happening, but he is right there at the doors of the sanctuary. He could have very well walked in there, and that could have been another incident, but they also have a lot of security at the church, so they were able to remove him from the property. And again, Pastor Bryant says DeKalb County Police were wonderful, and they were very helpful.
And Danielle, just one last question here, but I think it's important to double back on this. He was cited, that man in the vestibule, he was given a trespassing citation, is that correct?
I don't even think it's really a citation. I think it was an order, kind of a warning, like, don't come back here, you're not allowed here, and if you come back.
And not criminally charged?
Not criminally charged.
And he did not make it past the lobby?
He did not make it past the lobby, so he did not get into the sanctuary. But even still, anything could have happened, and that was Pastor Bryant's whole point. This is a disruption of people trying to go to service.
All right, out there, Danielle Nottingham, we know you're going to stay on top of this. As you mentioned, that video seen many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times online, and I'm sure if there are any updates on that, you're going to bring them to us.
Of course.
Thank you. We're going to turn now. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back in. We are joined now by our Chase Howell. Chase, you've been following this story out of Gilmer County for months now, and today you have an update for us. For people who maybe are just catching this now, let's start here. Fill us in on the backstory of what you have been reporting on out of Gilmer County.
Yeah, so basically November, we'll take it back there, 2025, which seems like forever ago as we were just talking about. Well, a woman claims she reached out to me and said, look, Chase, my son was grabbed by his crotch by an older student on the bus. My son went to the bus monitor went to the school district, and the school district said, well, it's boys being boys. It's just horseplay. It's no
That's
big
what the
deal.
school said?
That's what the school said.
Verbatim? They called it horseplay?
Per the mother, that's what they said. And so basically, she was really upset about this. She was like, my son was essentially sexually assaulted. And so she went and filed a Title IX complaint. For those that may not know what a Title IX complaint is, it's a federal mandate that says, look, schools, you have to investigate complaints of sexual assault, sexual harassment between students. You have to. And if you're found that you did not investigate it in the best way, you're going to lose funding. So anyways, they investigate this complaint, and they come to find out, hey, no, we think it's still horseplay. But the kicker is, what I just brought you guys a couple weeks ago was this incident. Charges were brought against the kid by the DA of Gilmer County. And according to the family, that kid who allegedly sexually assaulted that woman's son took a plea deal in the case.
What were the charges that were brought?
I'm not too sure. They didn't get into that because it is a juvenile case, but I was told that he pled guilty to battery.
Okay. And that was told by the family, right?
The family,
Because
correct.
It's a
yep.
juvenile case.
So we can't get into it, as you know. The DA can't tell us that.
What has the school said, the school district said to you? I'm sure you've been in touch with them. I'm sure they've responded in some fashion.
Some fashion, sure. So, I've asked for interviews before. No interviews were given to me, just statements were given to me. And basically, all they say is, hey, we can't get into student information, disciplinary action among students. It's private. But we take Title IX complaints very seriously, and we investigate it to the best of our ability. That's really, they say.
Has law enforcement weighed in?
They have not. But again, it's a juvenile case. So they can't tell us much about it. We can't, it's like pulling teeth because as it should be, it's ironclad when it comes to kids.
Sure. And you have an update now. You have been continuing to report out this story. Today, where do things stand?
So again, that has been it was dismissed, the Title IX complaint, but now another parent reached out to me and said that their stepdaughter, a group of boys, grabbed her butt during practice during a co-ed practice. They went and spoke to the coaches, the principal, and they said it was horseplay. And
that's according to this second
the second family, correct. So it's one of those things. So I reached out to a advisor who handles Title IX complaints about this, and I was like, "Look, you know me by now. I cut to the chase. I'm very to the point." And something that makes me curious is, okay, isn't grabbing someone's crotch sexual assault or at least battery? Could that be underneath Title IX? If a group of boys grabs a girl's butt on a field, isn't that again underneath Title IX? A lawyer said absolutely. So he thinks that their investigation fell short, and which was really interesting for me today. And another thing that the dad and the lawyer both said to me today was, look, boys will be boys was 30 years ago. Times have changed. We need to do something about it.
You say you talked to an advisor today. Who was that, and are they connected with the school district? This is somebody independent.
So they have given advice amongst hundreds of thousands of Title IX cases across the nation. So basically what I learned today, lawyers don't necessarily deal with Title IX cases. It can get to that point, sure, but typically it's handled through advisors that will go to the school district and handle it that way.
And what did the school district, as I'm sure you reached out to them again today, what have they said in response?
Exactly what I said before. So, it was, hey, Chase, we can't get into student disciplinary action, as I've told you before. And they also said basically, which I thought this was interesting, that he did comment on it, though. So he said, I think I know who you're talking about.
He being whom? Just,
Sorry, the
folks
superintendent.
who aren't as well-versed in this as you are.
Yeah, so the superintendent is Dr. Ridley, I think is his name, I forget. But there's so many superintendents we talk to in a day. So, that being said, he did kind of shine some light into the situation by saying, hey, look, I think I know who you're talking about, and this was worked out between us and the parents, but the parents are telling me another story. So who's right here? I don't know.
Well, what comes next?
What comes next is I'm trying to figure that out. Let's be real here, because I understand that there's a lot of ways that this can go. The Board of Education I want to reach out to. I kind of want to learn a little bit more about what they know about the situation, about these various incidents. And look, these papers are other families. These are other families that have given me their written incident reports, one of which their child had to go get an HIV test after they were sexually assaulted at school.
Have you brought that to the attention of the school district? What have they said in response?
So I have not brought all this because I want to work it out with the families first. I want to do what's safe for them and what they feel most comfortable with, because at the end of the day, these kids are victims and in which way they feel. And so we have to protect those kids.
Yeah, and we also have to make sure that the district has a chance to respond to this as well. So
exactly.
When you raise that, of course, we want to make sure that the district is getting a chance to weigh in. Where, you mentioned there's still some questions about where all of this goes. That first family, you mentioned, according to them, that battery, I'm going to choose my words carefully here, the case that they were talking about, according to that first family of the first alleged victim, ended in a plea deal to battery. Are they satisfied with how that all ended up?
I think that's a question for them that I will ask them later, but I think if my child was allegedly sexually assaulted by another student, I don't think that I would be satisfied with the battery charge, and I'm letting you allude to what's going to happen next between the family and the school district. And what I will also say, too, is that there's a lot of, this is like an onion, there's a lot of layers to this, because the family also wants to protect that other student who allegedly did this. He's a kid, and so these are kids, but again, you need to have consequences for your actions, and that's kind of what the family is saying at this point.
And that family, and just to draw this out, and this is the great thing about streaming, because we have a little bit of time here. When you talk about consequences and that family's perspective, the outcome they want is now a Title IX response that
Correct.
is satisfactory for them.
Correct, and that's the thing too. And adding another, again, this layer to this onion effect, we're looking at this as, okay, well, the school allegedly hasn't made accommodations as they're supposed to underneath Title IX. Anytime someone is sexually assaulted, they are given a battery charge. The two are supposed to be separated, the two students. They're still riding the same bus.
According to
the school and to the family.
Well, Chase, I know you're going to stay on top of this. We will see
As
where
always.
it goes next. We appreciate your time.
Thanks.
We're going to go now to break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. We're going to take you to remarks in just a moment delivered by President Donald Trump. Today, the Trump administration announced that it is dismantling a long-standing United States climate policy and revoking the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA's authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. This is what President Trump had to say just about 90 minutes ago.
That is why, effective immediately, we are repealing the ridiculous endangerment finding and terminating all additional green emission standards imposed unnecessarily on vehicle models and engines between 2012 and 2027 and beyond. This action will save American consumers trillions of dollars and will lower the average cost of a new vehicle by close to $3,000.
Is President Donald Trump again delivering remarks just about 90 minutes ago on what could be described as a new direction for the EPA. We'll have more on that coming up a little bit later. We're going to turn now to another national story, and a tough story that we have been following now, pushing on 13 days. It's the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie. Nancy Guthrie reported missing from her Arizona home after she failed to show up for a Sunday morning church service. Authorities have been looking for her ever since. We're going to go now to our Lee Waldman in Arizona with the latest on the search for Nancy Guthrie.
Neighbors around Nancy Guthrie's home are being asked to look at their Ring doorbell camera for 2 dates, January 11th, almost 3 weeks before her disappearance, and January 31st. They're being asked to look for a suspicious vehicle in the area. Children of 84-year-old grandmother Nancy Guthrie are desperately holding on to hope for her return. Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie posting on social media, urging people to look at this doorbell camera video and to call the sheriff's office or FBI with information. FBI agents are tediously searching the area near Guthrie's home to find anything left behind by that person.
The idea that he's out there, he has to be asking himself now, well, what did I do with all that stuff?
The New York Post is reporting investigators have seemingly recovered a black glove in the area, but it's not clear if authorities believe it's the same glove worn by the person seen in the doorbell camera footage. Experts say those videos and pictures are being scrutinized.
That jacket that subject is wearing could be red, it could be blue, it could be white. But because of the IR effects on clothing or organic materials, it changes color.
Meanwhile, the man who was detained and questioned by authorities over the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie is speaking out.
Just hear my name. Yeah, that's all I want.
He was released after several hours, and authorities did not file charges. Despite this movement in the case, the Pima County Sheriff's Office is not holding any press conferences or offering interviews for now.
When you've also done something very high profile and public that hasn't panned out, you really don't want to have to answer questions about it.
Meanwhile, Savannah Guthrie has posted a new social media video, a tribute to her mother with old home videos and pictures saying, "Our lovely mom, we will never give up on her. Thank you for your prayers and hope." Lee Waldman in Arizona.
This search now pushing into almost its second week. The search ongoing for Nancy Guthrie. There is a $50,000 reward now offered. The FBI is offering it, $50,000 for information leading to the recovery of Nancy Guthrie, they say, and or leading to the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in her disappearance. If you know anything, this is the FBI asking for this. This is the local authorities, the Pima County Sheriff's Office asking for this, and this is Savannah Guthrie and the Guthrie family asking for this. They have repeatedly asked anybody who knows anything to call in. You can call the FBI tip line. It's 1-800-CALL-FBI. Again, that is 1-800-225-5324. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back. Welcome back in. It is still the middle of February, but we have been enjoying some sunny days. Even if it was a little drizzly yesterday, who's to complain when the days are getting a little longer and it's starting to feel, dare I say, a little spring-like. Meteorologist Melissa Nord is giving me the nod there.
Yeah.
That's good. We like when we're in agreement.
60s, and you're right about the sunsets. I mean, I think they're about 6:20 now. So we're
Phenomenal.
gaining this whole month we gain about almost an hour of daylight.
How many do you somebody asked me this the other day.
Yeah.
How many minutes more do we get a day of sunlight? Do you know?
Every month is different.
Now we're really going to get
Every
into the
month
science
is
here.
different, so it depends on the month. Some months, in the spring, we'll gain about 60 minutes of daylight. Some months, you only gain about 45 minutes. It's, do you remember logarithmic?
Oh,
things
geez.
that look like this on a
I'm getting
bar graph, on a
flashbacks to
graph.
Morse Hall, my math building. and
Oh.
I'm going to break out in a cold sweat here.
Oh.
I remember not understanding all of them very
Yes.
well. Vividly.
We won't go into Calc 3 or matrix multiplication.
Zach never went into Calc 3. I didn't make it that far.
I retook
I fell
my
off that
Calc
wagon
3.
long before that.
I had to retake it. I had to retake almost all my math classes.
But you
at
know what?
Georgia
You
Tech.
are a functioning professional scientist.
Yes.
I let you guys do the science for a reason.
So short answer is about 2-ish minutes a day, but it changes throughout the month.
You know, this is why
So
I
we
feel like
have-
I'm saying this every day now. This is why it's such a treat to talk to you guys. Of course, we love getting the forecast, but we get to talk about science here too. And
It's all science. It's all around us.
Every
And
day.
I'm not wearing a white lab coat, as I tell kids when I go into their classes for school visits.
you can, science takes all forms.
It does. Let's talk about the science of how nice it is
Let's
outside
do it.
today.
This is science. This is the kind of logarithmic function I can get behind.
Sine, cosine. You know what? Then we could go into the nerdy, what is it? They used to have the Valentine's Day sine and cosine things.
You know what? I actually do. I do remember that a little bit.
Yeah, Georgia Tech does them every year on their Instagram. Reams is telling me I need to stop talking. All right, through the weekend. It's nice for now. We do have rain moving back in for the end of the weekend, though, so it is a big weekend. We've got Valentine's Day. People want to spend some time outdoors, enjoy some of that milder air. You'll be able to do so today, tomorrow, Saturday. Some clouds are with us, but it's Sunday, our next day, with impactful rain coming in. What I mean by impactful is not a severe weather setup, but it does mean that we are going to have an impact on any of your outdoor plans in the morning and in the afternoon. So this weather system coming in gets a big slug of moisture coming off the Gulf and pulling in some moisture off the Atlantic. So it brings us, a high chance of rain on Sunday. So if you're trying to make some outdoor plans, Sunday is not the day for those outdoor plans. Saturday or Friday are going to be the days for those outdoor plans. Friday, 62, about mid-60s for Saturday with clouds moving in. I just want to show you the timeline of this rain arriving. We do have a little bit of cloud cover coming in overnight. That'll be with us just around sunrise Friday. Then it's out of here. It's a nice Friday. We're up around 60. We'll be in 50s at the 50s if you want to enjoy a pre-Valentine's Day dinner, maybe on a patio at a nice restaurant here in Atlanta. And then we get to Saturday. The clouds are going to be back in for Valentine's Day, but the raindrops should hold off until after 8 in the evening. So if you have plans in the afternoon for maybe a picnic, treating, perhaps, dads want to treat their daughters to a Valentine's Day picnic. It's decent. Look, we're in the 50s in the afternoon to right around 60. Rain showers come in the evening, and then by Sunday morning, the rain becomes more widespread. At times it could be heavy. You notice that little almost line of orange on the map. That's going to be weakening thunderstorms that enter more stable, cooler temperatures here in North Georgia. So we should see any chance of severe weather stay west of us on Sunday, and then it will roll through for the morning through the early afternoon. We could dry out by Sunday evening. Models are still waffling back and forth a little bit on just when that rain will end. But a good ½ inch to an inch of rain coming. That's great news because our drought monitor came out today. The drought is worsening, but at least this rain coming in is not going to impact both days this weekend. Sunshine outside right now. Oh, it feels fantastic. We're now up to 64 degrees here at 3 o'clock, 50s to the north. A little springy outside, but not too humid out there. We've got new data coming in. Chris and I are sorting through that, combing through it. We'll talk more about your weekend rain chances and if we could see a cool down coming behind that rain ahead at 4.
Our Melissa Nord, resident scientist, bringer of logarithmic functions and a great forecast. Melissa, we appreciate it as always. We'll see you a little later. All right, we are going to turn now to a different kind of story. We're going to turn now to a development in a story that our Savannah Levins, investigative reporter, has been tracking. The GBI now is investigating a development authority in Putnam County amid a major development deal. Local leaders say they were shut out of the decision, and at the center of all this, a group of volunteers have some big constitutional powers. That's a lot to untangle. Savannah Levins is here now. Nobody untangles these kinds of stories better.
It's my job.
It is your job, but you know what? There are a lot of people who have jobs who, sometimes are better than others. You are very good at this, and it's important and it's complicated. Bring us up to speed on this story that I know you have been tracking for a little while now.
Yeah, well, we'll watch our original reporting here in a minute, but for those who aren't aware, a development authority generally exists, in your city or your county to, make deals and do things that essentially promote growth, jobs, things like that.
This is like economic development, right?
Yeah. Now, historically, they haven't had a ton of power. They, sometimes do things like, visits to the schools or job fairs, and they're generally, volunteers, unelected, not making any money. They're not making a salary off of this. They're just doing this to help their communities. Now, through our investigation in Putnam County, we found that this development authority in this county took on a huge project of $100 million and offered a very large tax break. And then everyone was like, whoa, wait a minute. I thought this little development authority was just that. How do you have all this power? So let's watch our story and see the answer to that question. A proposed housing development along Harmony Road could add hundreds of new rental homes to Putnam County.
People start getting on it.
But critics say it could come at the expense of taxpayers and schools.
Most of us thought, wrongly as it turns out, that the Development Authority would be legally restricted to bringing in jobs and businesses, not subsidizing for-profit housing builders and renters.
The project is tied to a deal the Putnam Development Authority, or PDA, approved, allowing the developer to avoid paying full property taxes, an estimated savings of around $6 to $8 million. Supporters say it will spur growth and provide much-needed housing. Records show the project has evolved from a mixed-use plan to mostly rental housing, with projected jobs falling from 78 to just 3 over 15 years, according to assessments 11Alive reviewed.
We are just not getting value for what we are giving them.
County Commissioner Stephen Hersey and Board of Education Chair Dr. Stephen Weiner say their boards both unanimously oppose the tax breaks.
It makes no sense to add that burden to current taxpayers and current systems to benefit a private company's profit margin.
Despite that opposition, the PDA pushed the deal forward, raising concerns from citizens like Jennifer Ray and Aaron Olson.
Both boards adamantly said, no, we don't want to do this. This is not a good idea. And then the PDA did it anyway.
Because the PDA is a constitutional authority, it does not need approval from county commissioners to move forward. Starting in the 1950s, Georgia law allowed counties and cities to give development authorities powers written directly into the Constitution, meaning they don't generally require the consent of local governing authorities to provide tax incentives.
You want to give a free ride to all these people, and there's no way you can do that without taxing every other property owner in in Putnam County.
Georgia prohibited the formation of new constitutional authorities in 1983, but 94 formed in the state before then still exist today. The PDA is one of them. The members are part-time, unelected volunteers.
They are also unvetted. And that, to me, is a problem.
Is the vetting not the job of the Board of Commissioners who appoints them?
We never do that. But you have to remember that the Putnam Development Authority was basically non-functioning. We never thought that it would take on a project of magnitude of $100 million.
I reached out to the members of the PDA multiple times, calling, emailing, even showing up in person. No one's here and no one's agreed to speak with us.
An attorney for PDA Chairman Walt Rucker III declined to be interviewed, but called the accusations of overreach politically motivated and meritless. Olson and Ray have both, in fact, expressed their intent to run for county commission seats in May.
Am I politically motivated to come in and find out what's going on in Putnam County? Absolutely. I want to know where our money's going.
The debate has grown far beyond Harmony Road, with county leaders and citizens now calling for Georgia lawmakers to step in.
These PDAs are out of control.
They are. They definitely need some major bumpers.
So, Savannah, I teed you up and I said, this is a complicated story to untangle, and you have done a great job of untangling it. I stand by that after watching that.
Oh, thanks.
This is a situation where it seems, and I think you mentioned this in your piece, county elected leadership and this development authority are at total odds with each other.
Yeah, yeah. And, when this story was first pitched to me by these concerned citizens, they said, well, the Development Authority is pushing through this tax abatement even though the Board of Commissioners voted unanimously against it. And my first thought, Zach, was, no, they didn't. I said that certainly that's not allowed, but it is under these constitutional powers that 93, 94 different development authorities in our state have.
And as you mentioned there, no interviews with the members of this development authority, right?
Well, that has changed. So that's an update as of right now as I sit across from you. After this story aired, I reached back out to the PDA, said, hey, now that this is out there, just checking back in to see if you have a comment.
The story first aired on Sunday.
That's right. And they also held a meeting after that, and in which I hear they discussed our story and the fact that they wanted to address it. So they did send me a pretty lengthy statement. We'll get into a little later tonight more, but they essentially said they are standing by their decision to offer this tax break to make this project happen. They say that they need housing in Putnam County and they're standing by it, and they think that the judge will find it to be perfectly sound.
And you mentioned the judge. This has now become a legal controversy here, true?
Yes, yeah. Superior Court judge ruled that this all seemed a little strange given the citizen concerns and the commissioner concerns. So the judge ordered an independent audit before this project could move forward. Now the PDA says that they think that that will come up all clear, and they're again still really standing by this project. But I mean, as you heard in that story, there are also discussions about legislative efforts and if this needs to be taken to the state house, whether it's dissolving all constitutional authorities in the state of Georgia, unlikely, but could it be something like requiring financial disclosures of its members who are, again, part-time volunteers who have their own day jobs, or requiring the consent of the tax authority?
What comes next here? What is, because you've checked a lot of the boxes in my mind that say this could be a long saga, right? There's a controversy between elected officials and this development authority board. There's now a judge involved, so there's a legal controversy here. I'd imagine for some people in Putnam County, they're looking at all that and they're saying, boy, there are a lot of balls in the air right now and we want answers. What comes next, and how long could it take to get to the bottom of all this?
Well, in their statement, the PDA, really said that they are committed to being more transparent. They say, in the past, no one's been all that interested in what we were doing, so maybe we weren't as transparent about this as we should have been, and they vowed to do that moving forward. This audit from an independent, again, auditor is due March 31st, and that will be presented in a public hearing that we will cover. So we'll see what happens, but, public dissent and commissioner dissent or no, the PDA seems like they're wanting to move forward.
We're short on time here, so unfortunately we're going to have to wrap this up. But before we go, Savannah, I know you have a new piece airing coming up in just a couple hours here, right? You've alluded to this, but
yes.
Tell us what we should be on the lookout for this evening and when we should make sure we're watching.
So we're taking the story outside of just Putnam County and talking about how this could impact cities and counties across the state of Georgia who have similar authorities set up in their towns, what that means for them, legislative efforts, responses from legislators, and what they're considering as far as state law goes and the future of these types of authorities.
And that is coming up at 5 o'clock?
Yes.
Right here on 11Alive Plus and
right.
on air on 11Alive. Savannah, we're going to let you go, but I do just want to underscore here, because you said something. They held a meeting after your investigation aired.
Right.
In that meeting, they noted that some Atlanta reporter is and those weren't their words, but
you're not far off.
This is what local journalism is, and this is what local news is, and this is what local investigative journalism is. You're paying attention to issues that sometimes otherwise would not be highlighted, and you see as you started to turn over those stones, thanks in part to folks who reached out to you, it has become something that is now in the light that likely maybe many people would not have known about otherwise.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they reached out to us and issued that statement so that, we can offer that balance, and we'll have more at 5.
And now that this is out in the light, more people can make up their own minds. They're fully informed.
That's right.
And be on the lookout. I'm sure the next county commission meeting may be an interesting one.
Yes, for sure.
Savannah Levins, thank you as always.
Thanks.
We will see your piece coming up at 5. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Welcome back in. We are now a little over 2 months into 2026. We are well on our way into this pivotal midterm election year. The primaries are just a few months away, and lawmakers under the Gold Dome have been at work for about a month now. A buzzword that you're hearing a lot is affordability. There's been a lot of focus on taxes as well. We're joined now by Daniel Conso. He's a PhD and he's Vice President of Public Policy at the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. Can you hear us okay?
I can. Good afternoon. Sorry, I'm joining you live from the state capitol where lawmakers are debating these measures right now on the Senate floor.
Hey, listen, this is a place where we often have guests joining us from the Capitol, so there is no reason to apologize for that at all, especially when you're there, following along in real time the stuff that we're talking about. So let's start with this. Georgia Budget and Policy Institute has been doing research into some possible ramifications if the state income tax is eliminated, correct?
That's right.
Tell us a little bit more about that and what your group and your research sees as the outcomes of that proposal.
Well, in Georgia, the income tax is really the core source of revenue that powers our state budget. So 50 cents out of every dollar that the state spends is raised from the income tax. And so 75% of state spending is for healthcare and education. We are one of the most nation. And so when you start to chip away at those revenues, it can have very serious effects and leave you potentially making deep cuts that folks could feel across the state. So today there is a package of two bills on the Senate floor being debated right now, Senate Bill 476 and Senate Bill 477. And the combined effect of those would be to wipe out about half of the state income tax, so around $1 billion a year in revenue that would be lost. And although they're making up some of that, we think that the net would be to create a deficit that's over $6 billion a year, which is actually more than the state spends on Medicaid, more than our higher education programs combined. So it would be a really difficult hole to try to fill.
And I'm glad you bring up SB 476 and 477. For those who've been following along in Georgia politics, and maybe those who are not in the nitty-gritty of it every day like we are, it has become an income tax, and proposals to eliminate the state income tax have become a cornerstone of some statewide campaigns, most perhaps notably Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. He's a Republican. He's running for governor, and one of the key components of his launch in his bid for the governorship here in Georgia was a proposal to eliminate the state income tax. This package of bills, 476 and 477, they would not, correct me if I'm wrong here, Daniel, eliminate the state income tax, but they would reduce the tax burden substantially on many Georgians. Is that correct?
That's right. So they would cut the income tax in half. So it would be about $9.5 billion in total cost between those two. And
what would you say, in your research, you're focused on this, it's no secret, if people hear, hey, I may have to pay fewer taxes, a lot of people just on that surface level, I suspect, would meet that some perhaps excitement or approval. But as you dig into the numbers, what are the outcomes that your group is flagging here specifically?
That's right. Well, the real challenge in Georgia is that we are already one of the lowest tax states in the country. So in the South, we're third lowest. The only would be in Texas, which both have unique economies that are a bit different than ours that allow them to capture some sources of revenue that aren't available in Georgia. We've seen proposed are tax cuts, but not spending cuts. And so essentially that means that you have to shift the taxes and shift who's paying tax versus actually cutting taxes on net, or in the case of bills, you create a pretty large deficit that has to be filled somehow. And when we look at most spending, which, 3/4 out of every dollar that the state spends goes to healthcare and education, those could be some really painful choices for lawmakers that we just haven't seen much appetite for so far.
And you talk about the offsets. I want to ask you about that directly. Some proponents of these SB 476 and 477, including Senator Blake Tillery, who, if you're watching us, you see up on your screen here as well, as this debate over these bills is underway right now at the state capitol. Senator Tillery and others have said that eliminating and cutting back some tax credits could be an offset for the reduction in the income tax burden. Does that math out?
Well, it's very popular to talk about these things in the abstract, to talk about cutting back welfare. But what we've seen is once you have to start listing specific tax breaks, they tend to choose the ones that really don't add up to a whole lot of money. Things like crab bait, things that just sound kind of funny. But the total that we heard from the chair on the floor of the Senate that he thinks his bill would raise is about $2.8 billion. And so that's a lot less than the cost that we add up of the bills, which is around $9.5 billion. So that's why we think it would cause a deficit of around $6 billion. And so obviously it gets very difficult to find that much money in the budget. And so I think they've promised tax cuts that are a little bit larger or significantly larger than the revenues that so far they've been willing to consider pulling back on.
Daniel Conso with the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute, Vice President of Public Policy. I think, as you mentioned at the start of our conversation, you are outside of the debate that is ongoing at the state capitol right now. We appreciate it very much. We appreciate your perspective. We're going to listen in for just a moment now to the state Senate floor. Just moments ago, you saw Senator Blake Tillery speaking. You're now looking at Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, who, as Lieutenant Governor, presides over the state Senate. Let's listen in for a moment here, and then we can continue this conversation about these tax proposals.
All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine.
So if you're looking right now, you are watching the state Senate vote on one of these two Senate bills that you just heard us talking about with the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute there. This is Senate Bill 476. Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones has called for the vote. You see, this is a live feed right now from inside the state Senate. Senators have approximately 5 seconds left to cast their votes if they stick with the timetable here. And there we go.
On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 32 and the nays are 18. And this bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed, and it would represent the largest tax cut in state history.
You just saw there, and you're seeing again, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, in his role presiding over the state Senate, overseeing the passage of Senate Bill 476. SB 476 will now head over to the State House, where debate will continue over how to address these proposals to dramatically reduce Georgia's income tax. A little bit more information on Senate Bill, 476 here. Senate Bill 476 that you just saw passed out of the state Senate. If enacted into law, it would increase the deductible level of income for Georgians to $100,000 for joint filers and $50,000 for single filers. It's not a total elimination of the state income tax, but it would, for many Georgia families and many Georgia earners, dramatically reduce the amount of taxable income they have before the state. We're going to continue to monitor developments inside the state capitol right now. That was the big one at this moment. And again, the passing out of one chamber is far from becoming law. This bill will now move its way over to the State House. If it passes out of the State House, it needs to be signed into law by Governor Brian Kemp. Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, we should point out as well, we invited him to join us and share his perspective on the elimination or reduction of the state income tax in a live interview here on 11Alive Plus this afternoon. He didn't take us up on that, but we got to hear from him right there. We also heard a different perspective from the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. And this conversation about what to do about state taxes, state income tax, and whether to eliminate it is a conversation that has dominated the political cycle in 2026. Some folks over in the House have been a little more focused on property taxes, particularly Republicans in the House, more focused on property taxes. Republicans in the state Senate have tended to be a little more focused on income tax. We'll see where all this ends up. We are still not even to the midpoint of the state legislative session. But we are going to, I think, take a break right now, and we'll be right back shortly. Lawmakers here in Atlanta and across Georgia continue to react to the ongoing developments we continue to bring you in the wake of the FBI's execution of a search warrant on the Fulton County election hub a little over, I want to say about 2 weeks ago at this point. But these days have been moving fast and many developments have continued to come out. The latest this week, the federal judge overseeing at least the Georgia portion of the federal government's probe into what it is calling election integrity. Federal judge here in the Northern District of Georgia ordered that the docket be unsealed in this case, and as part of that, the affidavit, the probable cause affidavit in support of the search warrant, became public this week. Now, that affidavit, for those who very understandably are not intimately familiar with the way a criminal search warrant is conducted and whether the criminal justice process works, investigators will use that affidavit to try to convince a magistrate judge that there exists enough evidence to support a finding of probable cause that would in turn allow investigators to carry out a search warrant. A judge in this case did find probable cause and gave investigators the green light, FBI investigators, the green light to carry out that search warrant. Reaction from lawmakers following the unsealing of that affidavit that happened on Tuesday of this week continues to come in. Just a few hours ago, we spoke with U.S. Senator John Ossoff, a Democrat, and asked him about that affidavit.
Earlier this week, the probable cause affidavit in support of the Fulton County Election Hub search was made public. What's your reaction to that?
What a disgrace when every credible election administration expert I've seen assessing this confirms that it is a hodgepodge of previously investigated and disproven conspiracy theories. Really a low point for the Trump administration to seize Georgians' ballots on that basis. And I think the important question for members of the press like yourself also to be asking is, why was the nation's spy chief, Tulsi Gabbard, overseeing a ballot raid in a battleground state? Truly bizarre and obviously inappropriate for the leader of our country's intelligence agencies to be present for this.
As Democratic U.S. Senator John Ossoff responding to the latest developments in this ongoing situation we are following after the FBI executed a search warrant on the Fulton County election hub. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche was asked by reporters following that Fulton County search warrant, the election hub search warrant, about images, pictures taken on scene showing Tulsi Gabbard outside of the Fulton County election hub. This is what Deputy AG Todd Blanche had to say at a briefing on January 30th.
Could you please explain Tulsi Gabbard's role in DOJ activity regarding the Fulton County search?
What do you mean her role?
It was reported that
She happened to be present in Atlanta. I mean, yes, I saw the same photos you did. I mean, she doesn't work for the Department of Justice or the FBI. She's an extraordinarily important part of this administration. This administration coordinates everything we do as a group, and so I think her presence shouldn't be. There shouldn't be questioned. Of course, I mean that's a big part of her job, and so the fact that she was present in Atlanta that day, is just something that shouldn't surprise anybody.
Sean Maxwell.
All right, just two more. Go ahead.
Just following up on that. So are you saying that Gabbard's appearance in that area had nothing to do with the Justice Department action?
I most certainly did not say that. No, I did not say that. I said that exactly the opposite. I said this administration works closely together in all kinds of different areas, and so I'm not sure if they're surprised at that the administration is working together on things like election integrity. But if there is surprise, let me unequivocally state we are working together as an administration on election integrity type issues, and so that's all I can say about that.
So that's Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, a key member of the leadership group at the Department of Justice. As you heard from Senator John Ossoff to kick off this segment here in his remarks earlier today, it's important to remember Ossoff, a Democrat, is up for re-election this year. He faces three prominent Republicans vying for their party's nomination in the May primary. One of them is Congressman Mike Collins, who delivered these remarks in response to the Fulton County election hub search on Monday. And critically, we should point out here too, Monday was before the affidavit was unsealed. But this is what Congressman Mike Collins, a Republican, had to say on Monday about the search.
Yeah, it's good, and I've known FBI Director Kash Patel for a long time, and it's good to see that we're going to get some transparency. We deserve transparency in all of our voting, and so it's good to have them come by. We look forward to seeing what they come up with, and that way that puts confidence into our elections process out there.
Congressman Mike Collins, a Republican, one of three prominent contenders in the Republican primary race for their party's nomination to go on and challenge Senator John Ossoff in the November general election. We have also heard from the two other prominent Republicans in the Senate race just moments ago. I'm looking at my text messages here. Derek Dooley, one of the candidates, Republican candidates for Senate, said this, quote, "Federal law enforcement officials are conducting a lawful investigation. Governor Kemp and our state legislature have enacted reforms to ensure our elections are secure, accessible, and fair, and we must remain vigilant in the future to strengthen confidence in that process." We're also hearing, and you'll forgive me if I'm looking down at my notes here, but we want to read these verbatim. We are also hearing today from Congressman Buddy Carter, who is another Republican running for Senate, a Georgia Republican representing Georgia's 1st Congressional District in the coast, based out of Savannah. This is what Congressman Carter said about 2 hours ago to us. This is a quote. "We are finally getting a proper investigation into the outcome of the 2020 election, which Georgians know was stolen from President Trump. By getting the American people long overdue answers and passing the Save America Act, we will increase confidence in the outcome of our elections, reduce fraud, and protect law-abiding citizens' right to vote." That, again, is what Congressman Buddy Carter, a Republican, had to say this afternoon in response to this latest news of the unsealing of the probable cause affidavit in the search of the Fulton County election hub. State lawmakers are also weighing in. We're hearing from Republicans and Democrats on the state level and the municipal level. This is what Senator Greg Dolezal, himself a candidate for statewide office, currently a state senator, Greg Dolezal, a Republican, had to say earlier this week.
There are some things that we certainly can do legislatively. There's been bills that have been bounced back and forth in terms of what we do. The voters in Georgia need to vote on a paper ballot. It's the only way that they will have trust. We passed a law to get rid of the QR codes. The Secretary of State has no plan on how he's going to do that, despite the fact that we passed the law 2 years ago. So we need to get off of the machines, move to the paper ballots. And I'll say this as well, from the new law perspective. I believe that we need to have stricter laws on the enforcement of our voter rolls. I believe that if we find that counties are not maintaining their voter rolls as they're required to under state law, it should be an automatic trigger for the state to take over their elections.
That's Senator Greg Dolezal, State Senator Greg Dolezal, a Republican. Let's hear now from Rob Pitts, who is the chairman of the Fulton County Commission and has been a vocal supporter of the way that, in his view, Fulton County handled its 2020 election. This is Fulton County Commission Chairman Rob Pitts delivering these remarks at a Fulton County Commission meeting just hours ago today.
Well, Madam Chair, members of BRE, I just took a few notes while I was sitting here listening. And I want to say, first of all, that I take all of the comments that were made this morning very seriously. But there are a couple of errors, and one in particular recently. Richard Barron, first of all, was not fired. I asked Richard Barron to resign, personally asked him to resign, because there was so much controversy, and I thought that as long as he remained in that position, because I thought he was doing a great job, and I still thought he did a great job, but that as long as he resigned in that position, there was going to continue to be controversy on both sides of what with respect to how he was performing. So it was at my request that he resigned. He gracefully resigned. I want to clarify that. Also, on Election Day, I visit probably 50 precincts. The reason I go to those precincts is to observe, talk to the managers, to tell me personally, as chair of the Board of Commissioners, any problems. Is the equipment working properly? Any issues whatsoever, let me know as chair. Never has anyone brought to my attention any issues of any wrongdoing, anything crooked, underhanded. Now, I've been involved personally in a number of elections throughout my political career, and I'll say to you and the public that there's no such thing as a perfect election. There's always a possibility of mechanical failure. There's always a possibility of human error. Those things happen. But that aside, as long as I've been here, I've watched elections, and I am not aware, nor have I been involved in, of any organized effort on the part of anybody at Fulton County to circumvent the law, to manipulate elections, anything of that nature. And I said it before, and I will continue to say it as long as I'm here, and I certainly plan to be here. Now, with respect to the FBI raid, and I have no issue whatsoever with the men and women of the FBI. They were doing their jobs, and they do their jobs very well, and I support what they do and what they did. But they were there at the direction of someone. That night on January 28th, I was there along with you, Madam Chair, and our county attorney. I was in my office working, because my job is full-time, received a call from our elections hub that the FBI is here. So I immediately called our county attorney. She and I drove to the elections hub for two reasons. First of all, to make sure that our employees were safe, but number two, to make sure that we were complying with everything that the FBI asked us to do. When I got there, I saw that what was going on, and let me talk about the warrant for a minute. The first warrant, that in fact, in the first instance, there was no warrant. Then one of the employees had the good sense to ask for a warrant. Then one of the agents produced a warrant, which was not correct, so they had to go back and correct it. And it was signed by a judge, I believe, in Missouri, not from the Northern District of Georgia. They finally got that corrected, and the raid, if you want to call it a raid, that they began to do their jobs. And it's my understanding that some 700 boxes were removed from our warehouse. And what I said to that night, and I'll say again today, as long as those records were in the custody of Fulton County in that very secure warehouse, and it is very secure, they were safe and secure. No confidential information was leaked, none of that happened. But the moment that that last FBI truck pulled away from our elections hub, I have no idea, as I stand before you today, where those records are. I have no idea who has those records. I have no idea what they're doing with those records. So we, Fulton County, can no longer be responsible for anything that's happened with those records since the night of January 28th, when the last FBI truck left left Union City. Now, since then, I filed a suit, federal court. It's styled Rob Pitts et al. Versus the United States of America. I filed it for two reasons. Number one, to ask that the items, documents that were confiscated by the FBI, that they be returned to Fulton County. The court has not ruled on that yet. Second issue, we ask that the affidavit that was used by the FBI to secure the warrant, that it be unsealed. That, in fact, happened on Tuesday of this week. And in reading the document, the affidavit, if anyone reads it, from, in my opinion, not an attorney, but it's not worth the paper that it was printed on. It simply rehashes some of the same statements that have been made here today. And it's also been stated here today that the 2020 elections have been audited. They've been reviewed. They've been looked at from A to Z. And I'm not aware of any findings, serious negative findings regarding the 2020 elections. For some reason, many people, including the White House, are still focused on 2020. 2020 elections are over. Our current president, he is our president, he's my president, he's your president, but he lost the 2020 election.
That is Fulton County Commission Chairman Rob Pitts delivering those remarks today following the latest development in this case, the unsealing of the probable cause affidavit that was in support of the search warrant that was executed in the Fulton County election hub just a couple of weeks ago now. Another person we are hearing from, we heard from him earlier this week on Tuesday, and I'm going to read you this quote again, is the Secretary of State. It's Brad Raffensperger. He's a Republican. As Secretary of State, he oversees the state's election processes. He was the Secretary of State back in 2020 during the general election. He is still the Secretary of State now. He's also a Republican who is running for governor. This is what Raffensperger had to say on Tuesday following the unsealing of that probable cause affidavit. This is a quote. As Secretary of State, I've made Georgia the safest and most secure place to vote. Instead of wasting time and tax dollars trying to change the past with baseless and repackaged claims, let's focus our efforts on building a safer, more affordable future for all hardworking Georgians. So you just heard from a lot of lawmakers here, a lot of politicians at the statewide level, at the state level, congressional level, municipal level. You heard from Republicans and from Democrats, and you're going to continue to hear from them right here on 11Alive Plus and on 11Alive, and from all Atlanta news outlets that continue to cover very closely this major story focused on the most recent 2026 search warrant carried out in the Fulton County Election Hub and the continued fallout of Georgia's 2020 presidential election as it interplays with our criminal justice system and our political system and has become once again a major theme in these ongoing political races. 6 years later, 2020 election, another round of being at the center of our political discourse here in Georgia. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. We're going to bring you an update on a tough story from 2025 that sparked a lot of questions, demanded answers, and the investigative process into what happened and what went wrong and what needs to be done to prevent it from happening again is reaching its final stages. We're talking about the mid-air collision over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., the Potomac River between the northern tip of Virginia and the District of Columbia, the mid-air collision between a Bombardier jet operated by American Airlines and a military helicopter that claimed the lives of dozens of passengers. The wreckage was strewn across the Potomac River. It was an unmitigated tragedy, and it sparked many questions about what happened, what went wrong, and how those two aircraft managed to collide with each other over the skies of a major U.S. city and right next to DCA Airport, Washington Reagan National Airport. Today, just earlier today, Jennifer Homendy, who is the chair of the NTSB, talked to lawmakers on Capitol Hill and walked them through the NTSB's final report on this crash. Here's what she had to say.
We should not be here today. In this room, sitting with us or watching online, are family members of the 67 people who died on January 29th. We are so sorry for your loss. You should not have to be here because, as I've said many times, this was 100% preventable. It was preventable. In fact, now that our investigation has concluded, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that we've seen this before. We've investigated similar mid-air collisions going back decades, and we've issued safety recommendations like ADSB in over and over and over again, aimed at preventing just these kinds of collisions. Recommendations that have been rejected, sidelined, or just plain ignored.
Is NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy walking lawmakers on Capitol Hill through the final NTSB report on that mid-air collision between a jet and a military helicopter over the Potomac River. You're looking at video. It's tough to look at. You're looking at video of first responders, search and rescue personnel who were on scene on that cold night in the Potomac River, searching for answers and initially searching for survivors of that crash that took the lives of dozens. NTSB report here, I'm going to read you some of it verbatim. This is what the NTSB report had to say. Quote, "We determined that the probable cause of this accident was the FAA's placement of a helicopter route in close proximity to a runway approach path, their failure to regularly review and evaluate helicopter routes and available data, and their failure to act on recommendations to mitigate the risk of a mid-air collision near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, as well as the air traffic system's over-reliance on visual separation in order to promote efficient traffic flow without consideration for the limitations of the see and avoid concept." The report goes on to point the finger at, to indicate, this is a quote, "Also causal was the lack of effective pilot-applied visual separation by the helicopter crew, which resulted in a mid-air collision. Additional causal factors were the tower team's loss of situation awareness and degraded performance due to the high workload of the combined helicopter and local control positions, and the absence of a risk assessment process to identify and mitigate real-time operational risk factors, which resulted in misprioritization of duties, inadequate traffic advisories, and the lack of safety alerts to both flight crews. Also causal was the Army's failure to ensure pilots were aware of the effects of error tolerances on barometric altimeters in their helicopters, which resulted in the crew flying above the maximum published helicopter route altitude." That's from the NTSB report, pointing to what they have determined as causal factors that led to that collision. We're going to continue to follow this story as we know our sister station and all those in Washington, D.C., and all those in Boston, and all those in the other cities where victims called home will continue to do so. Right now, we are going to turn our attention to the 4 o'clock newscast coming up here on 11Alive Plus. Coming up, we have a new plan. There is a new plan that we are following, a new plan for DeKalb County schools as they look to potentially close dozens of schools. Plus, hear the latest on that hoax 911 call at Sprayberry High School. Thankfully, all students and staff safe. It ended up being determined to be a hoax, but it triggered a lockdown, frightened students and parents. We'll have the very latest on that coming up in just moments.
DeKalb County could lose up to 27 schools as enrollment continues to drop. We're going to show you which schools are on the list and how you can share your input before any final decisions are made.
And Georgia lawmakers, they are weighing new rules for data centers, aiming to keep your electric bills from spiking.
And it's so nice to see full sunshine back today. It's not going to last for the whole weekend. We'll time out when we could see our next round of rain.
Well, thanks for joining us. Streaming right here on 11Alive Plus, I'm Ron Jones.
And I'm Faith Jesse, and we start with this. Right now, DeKalb County School District, they are considering potentially closing 27 schools across DeKalb County.
That's right. So the school officials say the cost is cutting. It's a cost-cutting measure and will be finalized. They're going to finalize that list based on public input, but they're emphasizing some will close.
That's right. 11Alive's Marissa Sarback joining us outside of Oak Grove Elementary. Marissa, this is one of the schools potentially on the chopping block here. Can you break this down for us? And I imagine families in that neighborhood, some of them at least, are concerned.
Certainly, concerned is a great word, Faith, and I want to stress the word potentially here because the list has not been made official yet. The school district, or representative for the school district, says they've been working on this for the last 20 months and they are heavily taking public input in this. And it is a cost-cutting measure because they are set to serve 110,000 students in the district, and right now they're only serving 92,000. So we're pouring funds into empty seats. And to put that into perspective, that's about the size of a Rockdale County school district. So we're funding a phantom school district. Jennifer Caracciolo with the DeKalb County School District says there are a myriad of reasons for the decline in enrollment. There's a decrease in birth rates. People are not leaving their homes after their children leave, so empty nesters are staying in their homes. And also an area like DeKalb, where we're in the city, people are moving out because of affordability. So this is something occurring across the U.S., and we're looking at it into the future.
The money saved by closing some schools, she says, would then be used elsewhere.
Academics for AP classes, extracurriculars, fine arts, athletics, and make sure that it's all equal across DeKalb County.
The potential 27 buildings on the list face an uncertain future.
After we determine what to do with the buildings, whether to close, consolidate, or repurpose, we'll then focus on attendance boundaries, and then we'll focus on programs. Now, a committee would recommend all of this by the end of the school year, and that would be after public input. Now, the closures would actually start to take effect in 2028, but the full phasing in of all of this would take 6 to 8 years. Reporting live, Marissa Sarbach for 11Alive News.
And you know what? It's great that they are trying to get community input and stressing the fact that this is not set in stone. This is potential. We'll stay on top of this. Marissa, thank you so much. Well, now to this. A hoax caused a large police presence and disruption for students at a Cobb County high school today. It happened at Sprayberry High School. That's on Piedmont Road up in Marietta. Our 11Alive Sky Tracker captured several police cars in the parking lot, parents hugging their children. There was a code red that was put out there. Cobb County School says someone called 911 reporting that a student may have a weapon in a backpack. Well, the school says it moved quickly, placing that campus on a code red lockdown, requesting police presence, but authorities later confirmed that there was no weapon found and the call appeared to be a hoax. Let's get a check of your 11Alive weather impact forecast. It is very, very nice right now, but the rain could be on the way.
Yeah, it could be on the way. Let's get to meteorologist Melissa Nord. It feels like spring out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a little springy.
Yeah.
And you know what? We got a little more spring coming in here tomorrow, and eventually some spring showers for the weekend as well. But out of the weekend, you're going to have one mostly dry day and one day where you will want to flex those weekend plans. But the blue skies, what we see outside right now, that was our live camera from Midtown, Georgia Tech. We're up to 64 here in Atlanta, low 60s in the outlying suburbs, even up to 65 in Athens and North Georgia mountains. For this time of year in February, that doesn't feel so shabby outside. 55 right now, Blairsville, and also out in Clayton in Rabun County. For tomorrow, we are enjoying more sunshine. We'll start with a little bit of cloud cover first thing in the morning, but once again, above 60 in the afternoon. Not too bad for a Friday, starting off a nice Valentine's Day weekend, but the whole weekend not going to be so nice. This is the storm system I'm tracking, which is west of us on Saturday. That moves in by Sunday, bringing us a round of rain. Some of that rain could be heavy, and we could even see an isolated thunderstorm. We'll break down more on that. Also look ahead at whether there's a cool down to follow this front. That's in your full forecast.
The yeas are 32 and the nays are 18. And this bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed, and it would represent the largest tax cut in state history.
We are following breaking news at this hour. The Georgia Senate just passed a bill to reduce state income tax. We brought you that vote live on 11Alive Plus. So let's break this down. The measure allows individual filers to deduct the first $50,000 of their income from their state taxes. For couples filing jointly, it's the first $100,000. So more of your income would be tax-free, which would lower how much you owe the state. Well, the bill now heads to the House. And you can watch breaking news as it happens by downloading 11Alive Plus to your TV, and you can watch for free.
And there are at least 8 bills designed to protect against power rate increases for Georgians because of data centers out there. So one bill just got a hearing in the last hour at the state capitol. Let's get out to 11Alive's Doug Richards. He's there right now. So, Doug, why so many bills, sir?
Well, lawmakers are clearly seeing that some of their constituents are a little bit vexed by the possibility of having to pay higher rates because of data centers. Data centers provide the electronic brain power to run most anything that drives a smartphone or a laptop or artificial intelligence, and they gobble electricity.
These data centers run 24/7. And So the contracts we're reviewing are for extensive amounts of power.
At a hearing earlier this month, House members touted restrictions they hope will protect consumers from rate increases brought on by electricity use from data centers.
This is probably the bill that will pass this year, I would imagine, related to data centers.
Lawmakers are considering at least 8 data center bills. Some Republicans want to base a new law on rules approved by the Public Service Commission, which sets electrical rates.
Georgia Power is neutral to this bill. We believe the protections are there already.
But other Republicans want stronger assurances, which they've written into a Senate bill that Amy Sharma says she likes.
I would say it's all great forward progress.
Sharma says some of the data center bills rely too much on predictions from utilities and the data center industry on how much electricity they expect to use.
It is problematic because if we do not put protections into the law that says this overbuild has to be paid for by someone other than Georgia consumers, it will most likely end up on Georgia consumers.
There is one other approach that we need to mention, and that is the proposals to enact a moratorium on the construction of data centers. That is a Democratic proposal. It's not getting a lot of traction here in the Republican-led legislature. Live at the Capitol, Doug Richards, 11Alive News.
Okay, Doug, thanks a lot. By the way, there's a new report that finds that Georgia is falling behind when it comes to cutting energy use, and that could be costing your family a lot of money. So advocates say that stronger efficiency measures could lower power bills all across our state. According to the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, Georgia Power's energy savings are just over half the national average. So that means that fewer insulation upgrades and fewer programs that help families lower their monthly bills. Experts say improving energy efficiency doesn't just cut pollution, but it can also reduce the need for new power plants and help keep long-term electricity costs down as demand continues to grow.
Hey, let's head outside right now and take a live look at the traffic through the GDOT camera. This is I-85 South at Lindbergh Drive. It's 4:09 on a Thursday. It's a little slow moving there, but it is moving. And state lawmakers, they are considering changing how slow you're allowed to drive on certain roads. So this is a bill. It would raise the minimum speed limit on Georgia highways from 40 miles an hour to 50 miles per hour. Now, supporters say large gaps between slow and fast drivers can increase the risk for rear-end crashes. The hope is that raising the minimum speed limit would help reduce that. Well, right now we are working to learn more about a camper fire in Hall County where a body was discovered. We know that this happened near Cleveland Highway and Bivens Road. Hall County Fire and Rescue said it's leading the response here, and the victim's name will be released once family members have been notified.
All right, straight ahead here on 11Alive Plus, the months-long immigration enforcement surge in the Minneapolis area finally coming to an end. Why the state's attorney general says the crackdown did more harm than good.
Also coming up, Savannah Guthrie's new message on social media this afternoon as the search for her missing mother continues. And we want to help you out with your commute at 410. This is a look at I-75, I-85 north at I-85. Smooth moving there. You're watching 11Alive News at 4.
Welcome back, everyone. The intense ICE operation in Minneapolis is ending. The border czar, Tom Homan, announcing today the drawdown of immigration officers in Minnesota is finally underway.
That's right. The state's attorney general telling senators on Capitol Hill the crackdown created fear and loss of business after federal agents shot and killed 2 Americans. Brian Abel has more.
I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude.
The federal immigration crackdown in Minnesota coming to an end, as U.S. border czar Tom Homan announces agents are leaving the state.
A significant drawdown has already been underway this week.
The aggressive surge that began in December, called the largest immigration operation ever by DHS, was met with fierce criticism and resistance by Minnesotans almost instantaneously, with clashes between protesters and agents in Minneapolis and residents becoming observers, filming immigration enforcement actions in real time, leading to the first major flashpoint: the killing of Renee Good by an ICE agent. Her death sparking at times violent confrontations between protesters and federal agents. Tensions exacerbated by a second U.S. civilian killed in Minneapolis by a federal agent, Alex Preddy. The deaths upping pressure on the White House to end the operation as protesters mobilize and Democratic lawmakers threaten to withhold DHS funding unless ICE reforms happen. The Minnesota AG saying this about the crackdown to senators on Capitol Hill the day Homan announced the end of the enforcement operation.
The surge is contributing to violent crime, members. It's contributing to violent crime. 2 of the 3 homicides committed in Minneapolis in 2026 have come at the hands of federal immigration agents.
In Washington, Brian Abel reporting.
Well, we're also following this. It's been 12 days since 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie vanished seemingly without a trace. She's the mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie. And this afternoon, federal and local investigators, they continue to search for answers and for the armed person seen on a doorbell camera. Well, hope is growing more urgent for Guthrie's family. Today, Savannah posted a montage on Instagram of home movies with her mom, with a message saying, "We will never give up on her," and thanking people for their prayers. Meanwhile, agents continue combing the area near her mom's home in Tucson for evidence. We're also hearing from a man who was detained and questioned but released without charges.
Clear my name. That's all I want.
Reporters show investigators may have recovered a black glove nearby, though it's unclear if it matches what we saw in this surveillance video captured by that doorbell. Experts say those doorbell videos from Nancy's home and pictures are being scrutinized. Authorities are not holding press conferences as this investigation continues.
Yeah, hopefully they can find her and get her home safely. Yeah. Atlanta-based Norfolk Southern has now reached a partial settlement tied to the 2023 train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. So this is according to our partners at the Atlanta Business Chronicle. These are the fires that broke out after hazardous chemicals spilled during that derailment. East Palestine school officials say enrollment is down 6%, citing falling property values and lawsuits as well, cutting into funding based on student numbers. The district is getting about $150,000 to settle one claim and another $600,000 from the company. Leaders say that talks continue over other issues, including a claim that Norfolk Southern did not deliver on a promised $30 million community center. The company declined to comment just yet. Well, a development deal in Putnam County here in Georgia is now raising questions about how much power development authorities have across our state. 11Alive investigative reporter Savannah Levins tells us where the case stands right now.
We've been digging into a controversial development deal in Putnam County. Well, now a judge is hitting pause. Not canceling the project, not calling it illegal, but ordering an independent audit before any big tax breaks can be offered to this developer. And here's why that matters. This case is now raising questions about powerful development authorities across the state of Georgia. Groups that can make pretty big financial decisions that could impact your taxes without the approval or final say of elected local leaders. Tonight at 5, we'll tell you what happened after our initial report, including a first-time response from the Putnam Development Authority, why this fight is now reaching the state capitol, and what it could mean for taxpayers far beyond Putnam County.
Nice to see the sunshine back today. It's not with us for the whole weekend, though. I'm tracking a storm system that's going to be coming in, bringing us some widespread rain, maybe even a few thunderstorms moving through early on Sunday. But the good news with this storm system, there is no sharp drop-off in temperatures behind it, or a sharp drop-off in temperatures as it's coming through, bringing rain in. So temps are going to stay near or just above average. Here it is, big picture. It's to our west in its infancy today and tomorrow. By Saturday, picking up some steam across the southern plains, and then by Sunday, racing through North Georgia, bringing us a soaking rainfall to the area. Here's the forecast track a little closer hour by hour. Overnight tonight, we start off with clear skies. We'll see a few clouds building in while you're sleeping. Those won't do much to our temperatures. We'll start off around 40 degrees first thing on Friday morning. Bright skies by Friday afternoon. Like today, we're probably going to crack 60 degrees. Then as we head into Saturday, the clouds are back. The atmosphere's moistening up, but it's still to our west, that storm system. So we're going to have a day on Saturday where the clouds will be thickening up, but we're still dry with temperatures once again reaching around 60 degrees. Watch Saturday evening. It's Valentine's Day. A couple date night plans out there. We're still mostly dry for those, but after midnight, showers start to move in. And then Sunday, some heavy rain could be arriving. This model shows it coming in first thing on Sunday morning. A line of weakening showers and thunderstorms, but still they could have some pockets of heavy rain as they move into North Georgia. Rain amounts, though, have come down a bit. A couple days ago, it looked like we could see 1 to 2 inches of rain. Now it looks like a ½ inch to an inch. The drought monitor came out today. Drought is expanding. It's getting worse, so we do need rain, and we'll take every inch that we can get. Level 1 risk on Saturday to our west, but by the time the storm system gets here on Sunday, we likely do not have the ingredients to come back together in North Georgia for severe weather. So I'll be watching those clouds increasing on Saturday. Storms to our west. Sunday, the rain is here. A few rumbles of thunder, thunderstorms possible, but severe weather should stay south and west of our area. Both days make it into the 60s. 60s outside right now as well. Bright sunshine over Midtown at 64 degrees. We'll start tomorrow morning. Nice. And then for the afternoon, more 60s on the way. You can see the temperature pattern into next week as well. More of that spring-like warmth heading into North Georgia. Couple cold spots in the North Georgia mountains tomorrow morning. We'll step out in the metro around the 40-degree mark for the afternoon, topping out high of 63 with mostly sunny skies. You see that chance of rain and storms over the weekend on Sunday, but dry for your Valentine's Day with a high of 62. Even warmer next week. Upper 60s, low 70s, maybe with a sprinkling of pollen numbers coming up a little bit. It's only February. Peak of pollen season's early April. All right, today's Weather on Moment. A lot of pretty jet contrails in the sky this morning, right at sunrise. Great photo from Alpharetta there. Thank you so much, Heather, for sending that in. That's our Weather on Moment of the day today. If you have a photo of sunset tonight or the rain coming in over the weekend, you can share those with us in our 11Alive Weather Impact Facebook group and join the conversation. Ron?
All right, thanks a lot, Melissa. You know, it's been another day of big wins for Team USA at the Winter Olympics. Here's a look at some of those big highlights. Team USA's women's curling team is now building some momentum. Corey Teesey, who already earned silver in mixed doubles, is now helping lead the Team USA in the push for gold. Now, the U.S. won 8-4 against South Korea and is currently taking on Sweden. And Team USA's Jessie Diggins wrapping up her final Olympics with a bronze medal in the freestyle cross-country skiing event. She has officially cemented her place in sports history with 3 World Cup titles and 4 career Olympic medals, among other sports accomplishments. And just at the ripe old age of 34, she is the most decorated U.S. Olympic cross-country skier in mankind. You know, Team USA is also adding more hardware to his medal count following Madison Chalk and Evan Bates' stunning performance on the ice. 11Alive Shore Preheim is in Milan with what their silver medal means for the veteran duo.
Team USA figure skating has been so popular here at the Winter Games in Milan Cortina, and one couple really standing out. Madison Chalk and Evan Bates, the ice dancing duo for Team USA, who just missed out on gold by 1 point. They just came here to talk more about it, wearing their gold medal from the team competition and the silver medal from their individual competition, and they are all class. Hear what they had to say about that silver medal.
It's been a roller coaster of emotions, so many highs, and I think that really were going to take away the feeling that we had as soon as we finished our programs. We were so happy with how we skated, so proud of each other and what we've accomplished, putting out 4 great performances in 1 week. The mental strength and the physical strength that took to just accomplish that was a feat and something that we're really proud of.
This is their 4th Olympics. They're 33 and 37 years old. They were here with their moms. They've all been a family skating-wise for 15 years, and the couple married 2 years ago. And the moms probably said it best. They said, hey, of course they wanted gold, and they were so close, but they have a golden future together, and that's more important than anything. Reporting at the Winter Games in Italy, Cheryl Preheim, 11Alive News.
All right, Cheryl, thanks a lot. From nearly 600 pounds to running the Beltline, we're going to show you one man's journey of weight loss, friendship, and self-discovery. Plus, coming up next, we're going to be hearing for the first time from the Fulton County Election Board after the FBI raided his building. The next steps is focused on right now. You're watching 11Alive Plus.
Hi, now time for some good news on your Thursday, and I'm so excited about this story. It really started with just a single step. A nearly 400-pound weight loss began with a 5-yard walk. Unbelievable. 11 Alive's Caitlin Ross joining us to share this incredible story of accomplishment from one person who said today is day one.
Day one, and refuse to give up. I think that's what's so cool about this story. It's not just the day you start, it's that you keep going. Now, he told me that it started with this 5-yard walk, and now he wants to run an Ironman.
Every step on the Beltline is exciting for Scott Bagwell.
You see something and you discover something new on the Beltline every time you're on it.
Each run moving him closer to his goals.
In 2030, I'm going to do an Ironman.
Ambitious for a guy who just started working out with the Run for Christ group last fall.
I walked in here back in November not knowing a single person, and now I've met some of people that have become some of my closest friends in life.
The friends he's met on the runs help shape him into the best version of himself.
We do life together. By losing weight, I've now experiencing something in life that I haven't had before. It's new people, new friends.
His weight loss journey shaping his entire life.
A little over 2 years ago, I weighed in at 596 pounds. That was the heaviest recorded.
He's lost nearly 400 pounds and gained a whole lot of confidence.
I'm in the season of life where I say yes. I've started saying yes so much, I've had to start learning to say no to things.
Like no to the show that started it all.
I decided 8 months ago to stop living my life for the show and start living my life for me.
Scott was featured on the show My 1,000-Pound Best Friend. The storyline chronicled his nearly 400-pound drop through workouts and bariatric surgery. But he says nothing changed at all until he addressed the mental health aspect of the weight.
Once you learn to speak up and speak out about what you may be struggling with, like I did, you can change your whole life, and you can change lives of many people around you.
He wants this to be his best season yet.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, right?
400 pounds.
It's incredible.
Looks like a completely different person.
He really does. And he says it's not just the physical aspect, it's that so much has changed in his mind, how he feels about himself and how he feels about the world.
And you know what? It's a story that's so inspiring because you get to a point, and you don't have to be 500 pounds, you could be a couple of pounds, wherever part of life you're dealing with. And you feel like you try, and you stop, and it's like you just have to keep going.
Yes.
It's consistency.
And I love that he speaks about that. He speaks about that consistency, that dedication, and he really wants to uplift others, which I think is the coolest part about this. He wants to share his story to help other people who might be going through the same thing.
Well, thank you for sharing his story.
Thank
and we
you.
appreciate him sharing it. And we have good news like this every day at 4 o'clock. So
Yes.
we hope to see you for a good news story tomorrow, too. See you guys.
All right, more good news. Sunshine's out there today, and I'm tracking more of it to kick off your weekend. But all good things must come to an end. We'll time out your weekend rain chance ahead next.
First on 11Alive Plus, Fulton County's election board meeting for the first time today since the FBI raid. The next big date the county is now focused on in its legal battle to get the seized election materials back to the state of Georgia.
And a family's heartbreak exploited online. Ahead, 11Alive investigates how scammers hijacked a Georgia family's most personal moment and how one mother is fighting back.
Plus, the sun is shining on this Thursday, but it will not be shining the whole weekend. I'll time out the arrival of our next round of rain.
And curling sweeps into the southeast, how one Atlanta family turned a Winter Olympic craze into a fun way to stay active and bond with each other.
Well, thank you so much for streaming with us today on 11Alive Plus. The Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections met for the first time since the FBI raided its building.
That's right. So right now, the board's main focus is preparing for the upcoming midterm elections.
That's right. But as 11Alive's Grace King shows us, the FBI's seizure of its 2020 election records overshadowed much of that.
There are just 2 months until early voting begins in Fulton County for the midterm primary elections, but the spotlight Thursday seems stuck on 2020.
If you don't have anything to hide, why not just Put it out there.
All of the allegations contained in the affidavit that was unsealed yesterday have been debunked.
I think it's time to let go.
Nearly every speaker at today's meeting addressed in some way the FBI raid in late January, where agents seized hundreds of boxes containing 2020 election ballots, tabulator tapes, and voter rolls.
I have no idea what they're doing with those records.
County Chairman Rob Pitts advocated for his team as they prepare for the next wave of elections.
The energy that people are using now should be in support of this fine staff that we have as we prepare for 2026 and 2028 and beyond.
A key effort in 2026 is maintaining accuracy in the county's voter rolls.
Individuals turn 18, residents pass away, driver's licenses are renewed, voters move in, they move out. Every single day.
Registration manager Catherine Glenn fought back tears as she shared the steps they've taken in 2020 and beyond.
Our responsibility is to get it right. We are committed to the mission and will continue to carry out the duties with professionalism, accuracy, and integrity.
Fulton County says the FBI seized about 700 boxes of election material that they're trying to get back. They filed a motion in federal court and will have a hearing February 27th. In Fulton County, Grace King, 11Alive News.
Now to your 11Alive weather impact forecast. We are tracking some weekend rain coming to your forecast, but it's not ice.
It's not ice. Not ice at all. Let's get to meteorologist Melissa Nord. But until that happens, we're enjoying this spring-type winter or winter weather, spring-type winter weather.
It's a little bit confusing outside. You know, as long as you don't have an ice-cold, ice-hearted, cold-hearted Valentine. I don't think there will be any ice over the weekend, though. But we do have plenty of sunshine out there kicking off the weekend on this Thursday. Let's be honest, you've been thinking about the weekend since last Sunday already. It's 64 in town, Marietta 61, 50s in the North Georgia mountains. It feels lovely outside. And to start the Valentine's Day weekend, it's nice on Friday as well. Saturday, clouds are going to thicken up. But it's Sunday when rain is likely. So Valentine's Day itself is on Saturday. If you're celebrating Friday or Saturday, it's going to be dry. We'll just have a difference in cloud cover those 2 days. Here's the storm system arriving for Sunday. That'll push in Saturday overnight through Sunday morning with a round of rain. Some of that could be heavy, and I even think we could see a few embedded thunderstorms. But outside right now, temperatures in the 60s at the moment. After sunset, we'll fall back through the 50s. And eventually some 40s and 30s by tomorrow morning. We'll take a closer look at your weekend hour by hour. That's ahead.
We look forward to it, Melissa. Thank you so much. Well, now to this. Tonight, Athens police, they need your help identifying a woman found dead recently. Athens police say the woman, she was found dead on Atlanta Highway on January 27th. They believe her death is due to being out in the cold too long. So if you can, take a look on your screen right here. Police say this is what the woman looks like. She's believed to be between 40 and 50 years old. She's about 5 feet tall. And they say she didn't have any identification on her when she died. Here is what she had on. These images here of her clothing. She had a sweater, a North Face jacket, a blue jean coat, as well as a pair of blue and green Skechers. Anyone with information about this woman is asked to contact police.
New data shows that violent crimes are down, is down in urban areas. That includes right here in Atlanta. So a report from the Major Cities Chiefs Association analyzed numbers from 67 police departments and it found that homicides dropped 19%. So let's break it down for what's happening right here in Atlanta. Homicides fell from 126 last year to 98 this year. And at the same time, rapes increased from 85 to 91. Robberies climbed from 514 to 651. Aggravated assaults also on the rise from more than 2,000 to more than 3,000. Now these numbers match other reports that show violent crime has been trending down. Analysts say it's hard to really credit one cause here, but they believe that it's a combination of smarter policing strategies, improved technology, prevention programs like violence interrupters, and courts finally clearing COVID-era backlogs. Now, a major development in a massive sewage spill at Nickajack Creek, a story that we have been following for years right here on 11Alive. Cobb County commissioners have now approved a multi-million-dollar settlement tied to the 2018 wastewater plant failure. At a meeting this week, the board unanimously authorized a $30 million settlement with several contractors over the pump failure that released 113 million gallons of sewage into the creek back in 2018. Now, the spill stretched nearly 70 miles downstream and raised E. coli levels well above normal levels, impacting waterways. Many of our viewers use for recreation and raising long-standing concerns as well about environmental safety in South Cobb County. Cobb County leaders had no additional comment when we reached out to them.
Coming up next, a lot of sunshine in our future kickoff of the weekend, but not for the whole thing. We'll time out the arrival of our next round of rain. That's in your weather impact forecast.
And from the Winter Olympics to your neighborhood ice rink. See how curling is bringing families together across the metro. That's coming up after the break.
Here's a live look right now. This is Interstate 85, Interstate 75. You see it's a little slow and go, probably because it's got the blue circle of death spinning there. I don't think the traffic cameras are actually moving, but we'll update you as soon as we can.
Hey, the Winter Olympics are helping curling gain popularity here in the Southeast.
Yeah, it's a big deal. 11Alive's Marcus Grieve shows us how it's becoming a special way for one family to bond at the Peachtree Curling Association.
Realizing like, oh my goodness, this is super fun. And it was right after the Olympics and we started watching it again. And then everybody started asking, wait, what did you guys go do?
For the Canes, it all started as a curling lesson for two.
Andrea and I decided to go to a Learn to Curl as like a date night. We were hooked.
Yeah.
Super easy to learn, but super hard to master. And we got that kind of attitude where you just want to get after it and get better. So we've been hooked ever since.
Now, curling gives the Canes a chance to stay active together as a family. And of course, there's always a little friendly competition.
Here to ask who the best curler in the family is?
One of us.
Yeah.
But beyond the bragging rights, it's an opportunity for them to bond.
It gets this one off of electronics and it gets us out and about, but it's active. It does lend itself to a little competition, you know, when he shoots a shot that's way better than mine and then he gets to tell me about it for an entire week later. Different things like that, but just being active and being able to share something as a family is super important to us.
The Canes aren't alone. Curling may seem unlikely in the South, but the sport is gaining momentum.
Even in the 2 years we've been here, we've also seen new leagues get added just because there's more folks that are wanting to try it out. And it's pretty crazy because not only here, but we've been to Bonspiels and we've traveled to Huntsville and Knoxville and Tampa, Orlando. All those places all have clubs, which is pretty nuts being down here in the South for it. So you can definitely see it spread not only here in Atlanta, but across the entire Southeast.
And as the Canes perfect their stride, they're proof that the Southeast is warming up to life on the ice. In Marietta, Marcus Greaves, 11Alive Sports.
Straight ahead, scammers targeting a grieving Georgia family, how their baby's story was copied, faked, and used to collect cash, and what you need to watch out for before you even donate.
And sunshine, temperatures in the 60s. Does it get any better than this? Well, if you like warm weather, it does. I'll show you when we could hit the 70-degree mark. That's ahead in your Weather Impact forecast.
Eleven Alive investigates scammers using a Georgia family's grief for their own gain.
That's right. Savannah Levins is digging into how tender social media moments were stolen for profit and how a mother is now fighting back.
Sucking her tube like it's a pasty.
Let me warn you now. This story is a difficult one.
Oh, precious ones.
But Lexi and Joseph Copley hope you'll watch it anyway.
It's one of my favorites.
Because the story of their daughter Landry is one they want to share.
You're so pretty, girl.
That's why Lexi started documenting her pregnancy on social media, even after they found out baby Landry had a rare bladder obstruction and likely wouldn't survive past birth.
The only way to get through it was to have people pray for us.
Lexi's follower count grew, and so too did her faith when Landry was born at 3.2 pounds, alive.
She was the smallest baby in Children's, South Carolina to be on kidney dialysis.
By then, more than 41,000 people were following their journey on TikTok and Facebook. But on December 22nd, after 4 months in the NICU, a fatal pulmonary hemorrhage halted the future Lexi and Joseph had just allowed themselves to picture.
It shattered us. I can't even put it into words.
Another blow came just 2 days later.
A random person on TikTok had sent me like a message request, and it said, "Hey, I think someone's like pretending to be you and posting your child." It's been brought to my attention that someone is posting my child.
There it was, someone pretending to be Lexi, soliciting donations via PayPal for a baby who was already gone.
You're taking something that was so vulnerable for he and I to do and share our child with the world for prayers and asking for money to save her life when she's not even here anymore.
And you were never asking for money?
No, I would never do that.
Lexi and her followers reported the scam to PayPal and TikTok.
I even went as far as sending her death certificate that they asked for.
But for nearly a month, the page remained up.
This is the worst time of their life,
and someone's manipulating it for their own gain.
Haralson County Sheriff Corporal Robin Hood says detectives have been working to obtain information from TikTok and PayPal to see if the scammer can be traced. But if they're not in the U.S., she admits options are limited.
Once we find out it's out of the country, it's really hard for us to follow through with anything.
I just want it taken down. How are these people invincible? Like, why is this so hard?
After we reached out to TikTok and PayPal, the fake page was taken down and donors were refunded. But not long after that, another page popped up doing the exact same thing, and then another.
When I searched for the name associated with one of the PayPal accounts, it led me to several other accounts under multiple aliases, all full of content of sick kids, always with a plea for money.
We just don't want it to happen to anybody else. I'm going to be grieving for a very long time, but I just want some peace.
Lexi's holding her finger than me holding her hand.
There's no happy ending for a story like this. There are only memories, drawings from a big sister, and the feeling of holding the baby they never thought they'd even get to meet. And those things, at least, can never be stolen. In Temple, Savannah Levins, 11Alive News investigates.
And I tell you what, Ron, you look at this, it makes you so angry because you're
know.
like, what can we do about this? What can the companies do about this?
Right.
TikTok and PayPal both emphasize that they try to quickly respond to reports of impersonation or fraud.
Now, when pressed about whether they could actually increase efforts to trace or block the IP addresses, the company didn't have a comment. So if you have a tip for Savannah, just give her a holler at 404-873-9111. You can also email investigates@11alive.com.
We have sunshine outside right now, which has been a nice sight to see today. Temperatures are in the mid-60s, and moving forward, we keep the sunshine around again for tomorrow. But the buck stops there. We've got some rain coming in over the weekend. We've got clouds increasing on Saturday, and that rain is likely for Sunday. So I know it's a big weekend. People want to celebrate with their loved ones, Valentine's Day. If you're making Valentine's Day plans, it actually looks okay for Saturday, but there will be more clouds than what I expect for tomorrow evening. Temperatures for the weekend will stay in the 60s, but let's talk more about the rain coming in here. You can see forecast track bringing in that rain. That's first thing on Sunday morning. So that is coming in over the weekend. This evening, though, looks pretty decent outside. We've got temperatures that are in the 50s right now. We'll fall back into the 40s, and then first thing tomorrow morning, wake up, temperatures right around 40 degrees. Here's the forecast track, showing you the clouds increasing a little bit overnight tonight. Dry start tomorrow morning, breaking into more sunshine by the afternoon. Then we advance into Saturday. Here come the clouds. They'll be thickening up throughout the day. We're still going to be dry, I think, for any Valentine's Day plans in the evening. As we get further past, say, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock or so, there could be a couple sprinkles. Most of that rain, though, holds off until after midnight. Forecast track for Sunday. Here comes our rain with our cold front. These might initially be thunderstorms to our west. We're going to have cooler, more stable air in North Georgia, so those should weaken as they get here on Sunday morning, working through for the afternoon as well, and then we'll see dry skies moving back in by the evening. Rain amounts themselves have come down a little bit. A couple days ago, it looked like we could get a good inch to inch and a half. Now it looks like a half an inch to maybe an inch or so of rain coming. We'll need it. Would take it, but I think we will still be left with a drought when the drought monitor comes out next week. Chance of severe weather to our west on Saturday. By the time that gets here on Sunday, as I mentioned, the strong storm activity should stay west and south of our area altogether. So we'll go with temperatures in the 60s over the weekend. Outside right now, we are in those mid 60s. We'll step out tomorrow morning right around 40 degrees. Tomorrow afternoon, mostly sunny skies. Low 60s for temperatures, and if you're headed to a date night on Friday night, I think we'll have clear skies and temperatures falling back from the 60s into the 50s after sunset, and then 40s, so a little bit colder outside if you're out late for a pre-Valentine's Day date night. 7-day forecast, rain coming in over the weekend on Sunday, along with a few isolated thunderstorms. Next week, no cool down coming behind that front. If you want some spring-like weather, there is plenty of that coming next week. Highs will be in the 60s and 70s.
So for Valentine's Day, we cannot blame it on the rain. Oh boy, that was really bad. Anyway, speaking of Valentine's Day is right around the corner. Experts say that romance scams are on the rise and Georgians are actually losing thousands of dollars. 11 Alive's Dan Kennedy shares what you need to know to protect your wallet and your heart from our 11 Alive Plus streaming studio.
Well, in case you missed it this morning on 11 Alive Plus from our streaming center, with Valentine's Day right around the corner, you know it was just a matter of time before scammers tried to ruin a good thing. So what are the red flags to watch for when it comes to romance scams? We talked with the general manager of Zelle.
So what scammers tend to do is that if you meet on potentially a dating app or an online marketplace or a social media platform, all of a sudden they'll try to get you into some of these private channels. So think about like if you're starting to talk to somebody on a dating app and then all of a sudden they're trying to switch you to text messages or switch you to a phone call and getting you off the app. What they're trying to do is actually isolate you into these channels that just don't have the same safeguards in order to verify identity. So you need to be really thoughtful and careful before you do that.
Catch interviews like that every morning from 9 to 11 a.m. here from the 11 Alive Streaming Center. We're also following breaking news as it happens. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9.
All right, thanks a lot, Dan. A new report is now turning pain into purpose. This is from a nonprofit organization. How Positively Pink is helping breast cancer patients find hope and healing when they need it most. Welcome back, everyone. A new nonprofit organization aiming to help breast cancer patients in their healing journey. The Positively Pink Foundation brings a hopeful approach to a life-altering battle. 11 Alive Joe Ripley tells us how the nonprofit began with a calling.
Every charm holds a meaning.
This necklace reminds Jackie Labat of her nightmare and her journey.
If you go into a room and you ask people to raise your hand, if you've had breast cancer, know someone who's had breast cancer, been affected by it in some way, roommate, parent, friend, relative, everybody's going to raise their hands.
The Fulton County Sheriff's wife went public with her diagnosis in 2022, facing surgery the following year.
I did go aggressive in my treatment with a double mastectomy, so I sort of soared on the back end of it, but I know that's not everybody's story.
In search of a happy ending,
every journey deserves a positively pink lining.
Labat started the Positively Pink Foundation, a nonprofit that aims to support breast cancer patients like Faye Adams-Taylor.
When you hear this big C word, it shakes you up a little bit.
At 75, her life was shaken and then her heart broken.
In the middle of the journey, my husband filed for a divorce after 45 years.
Adams Taylor is now part of the Breast Friends initiative, providing support to others during their recovery.
We're the boots on the ground. We'll be going to the people and comforting them and giving them whatever they need.
Adams Taylor is one of Positively Pink's first grant recipients. Jackie Labat says giving back gives new meaning to each patient, each person striving to heal.
Whether it's just through inspiration or monetary or physical support that we can provide, I'm just happy to do it.
Joe Ripley, 11Alive News.
By the way, Labat says that the nonprofit organization often provides care packages, covers medical costs, and restores lost wages for the patients. The Positively Pink Foundation, they're going to host a 5K in June and HBCU bowling event in October and a Hearts for the Holidays benefit in December. Hey, there's a study from the nonprofit organization Clean Label Project that found that many dog foods contain dangerous levels of heavy metals and other contaminants. In fact, researchers say that some of the products have up to 13 times more heavy metals than human food. That matters because long-term exposure to those metals has been linked to higher cancer risks. The study found that dry kibble had the highest levels, while fresh and frozen foods tested lower. Experts say that 1 in 4 dogs will develop cancer in their lifetime. Coming up tonight at 5, 2 planned ice facilities in our area, and it could leave taxpayers on the hook. We'll talk about it next. Rice and chicken, actually cake cooking. Yeah, I got you.
Like real food.
Yeah, real food.
Yeah, my mom, Bella's down in Florida now, and she doesn't, yes, I do. She doesn't eat regular dog food anymore. Only.
I do.
Hey, check.